Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Lorecrimes. We're changing things up, we're doing things a little bit differently, but we hope you're all doing well. And today we're not joined by Eli, but I've got Hal and Colin here. Welcome. It's Lorecrimes, isn't it? Hello, everyone. How are we doing?
Yes, I think we did it. We made it live.
I had it open on my PC, and then you started talking in here, and then you started talking on stream, and then my eardrums started weeping.
Get confused. There is a bit of pain, but we are doing something. Speaking of confusion, something that will confuse the senses today. Andy, I think we're talking about something particularly disgusting and smelly.
Yeah.
And I'm not just talking about our podcast skills. What are we doing, Andy, today?
Today we are talking about the Death Guard. Ooh, look at that. It's Death Guard, isn't it? Shiny. So yeah, we're going to be talking about the 14th Legion, the Mortarians lads. It's all a bit of fun. And yeah, how are we feeling about it?
I just want to point out someone who just said, "Where's our short king?" Listen, listen. Okay,
the egg took a toll on him.
For people who didn't catch it, our previous stream had Eli eating an actual raw egg. It's worth a listen. I don't want to spoil. No spoilers for that, because we're going to go. I think we should go pretty much, if you guys are ready. Again, that 14th Legion, Death Guard, some smelly boys. It was ready to go. I think we just. I'll say raw dog it. Raw dog's not the right word.
I mean, I think it's worse.
It's just not nice.
Someone said return of the poop knife. Yes, I'm glad they remember that joke. That's a long time joke now. There will be no poop knife on this one. What's the ones that they call, like, I'm pretty sure I heard like a horror story of people talking about they're like reusable ones.
Reusable what?
Toilet paper, and it freaks me out. We're already getting. We don't want to know. But let's stick to Warhammer. What we know, instead of the reusable toilet paper of Warhammer lore, the Death Guard. Heading this up will be our good old boy Colin here. He's going to give you guys a little bit of an introduction. This is the kind of beginner to expert / iceberg effect of the Death Guard. So, we're going to go through those layers like a disgusting cake. This is, unfortunately, I was watching that show, Is It Cake, earlier. This is not cake. This is rot. So, Colin, are you ready?
I am, but can I have one moment? My dogs are running around in my front yard. Apologies, gentlemen, but everyone watching, but that's not good.
Okay. Colin's going to go rescue his dogs for a bit. If anyone has any questions in the chat, by the way, please send them towards us. Also, is there any other topics people would like us to see? I think we're going to cover some fantasy in the not too distant future. So people who have been enjoying our Fireside Fantasy ones, they can have a little bit of a listen on there. Yeah. No, we did not send anyone to Nurgle. Thank you, Jack Dawes. I think, Jack Dawes, have you been an early subscriber, brother? Appreciate the support. I think I've let you on. I might have seen you on my channel for a long time, so appreciate that, man. Mortarian is literally the worst Primarch. That's a big debate. I don't think you could say he's the worst Primarch.
Lorgar's the worst Primarch, surely. He's just a choir boy.
By measure of Primarchs, he is the worst Primarch. He is an interesting Primarch, but he is technically, like, even none of them disagree that they could absolutely wipe Mortarian out of existence. He's a bit of a wet wipe, to be honest. He's easily smudged.
Pretty much.
People are asking about what is the mask. The mask is because he has a secret past and you cannot tell us who he works for.
I'm in witness protection. No, all it is like for now, I do not want to show my face. So I got this from a lovely Etsy shop in Belgium, and I thought it would go well with the Remembrancer channel. But for now, we're keeping the identity concealed. But maybe next year, with a particular milestone, we might see what's under this disgusting face made of wood.
Not disgusting.
Ladies and gentlemen, my apologies.
Hello, dogs. How are the dogs?
How are the dogs?
Not running around out front, thankfully.
That's good. Oh, Someone's asking, is the vote conflicting? No, it's not conflicting. You know exactly what you want to pick. Choose it, brother. Dominic Jackman just put egg.
Egg.
Yes,
not
there will be
egg.
no. We didn't actually get any eggs on this
I
stream.
have eggs downstairs, but
We're not eating any eggs. You'd have to send a lot of money for us to eat it. Okay, I shouldn't have said that. With that being said, though, Colin, are you ready to begin this sort of disgusting journey?
I am ready to begin the disgusting journey of the Death Guard. Without further ado, let's now get into it.
Yes.
Death Guard, 14th Legion of Space Marines. They does anyone hear my voice echoing? Oh,
You might have used a second microphone there.
Apologies
for technical difficulties.
It's our first time doing this.
Echo
this way.
can't be changed.
But again, I should point out the reason we're doing it like this is because we want to interact with you guys while we do it, because we think, especially with the live streams we've done recently, we love the banter we have with you guys and seeing what you're talking about, and it's a different dynamic than doing it post recording. So that's kind of why we want to get you guys involved a bit more. Sorry, Colin. Please continue.
Oh, no worry. I'd rather an explanation. Also, it says echo cancellation is turned off, but that's only for me, so it's only a problem for me. I'll get used to it. All right. Anyway, Death Guard. They are the 14th Legion of the Space Marines, created as the rest of the first Space Marines by the Emperor on Terra to help him conquer the galaxy. They were initially known as the Dusk Raiders, for what other reason than they were proficient in attacking during the evening, night's getting settled, so all the troops are getting ready to go to rest. There's only a couple people on guard. That's when the Dusk Raiders would swoop in and thoroughly ruin your day. Their Primarch was Mortation, smelly man extraordinaire, all around pretty bitter human being. And their specialty among the Astartes was just being superhumanly tough, even for Space Marine standards. You could keep...
one sec. I think someone says, now I hear the echo.
Oh, no.
Oh, no. I think you might have... Did you switch microphones, possibly?
Make sure... You can mute mic while recording, but you can't switch mics.
Thank you for letting us know, by the way, boys.
Much appreciated.
We're all working it out. So, by the way, just let people know as well, the stream will be post-edited, so this will look super clean when we're done. But for those who are listening to the live edition, this will be quite rustic. That's okay.
First time's rough for everything. I'll make sure I'm a little bit less loud so it doesn't echo quite as much then. Where was I? Pardon me. Their specialty is being tough as nails. They're superhumanly tough as a result of Mortarian's gene seed, and they're especially resistant to things like chemical weapons and diseases, which is quite ironic given what's coming up. By the time of the heresy, they were just under 100k Marines, so they're not the largest legion, but they're certainly not undermanned. Only people like, the Ultramarines, the Sons of Horus, the Dark Angels before the big that was the Rangdan Xenocides, could be counted as bigger as them. Pardon me. Their training was very intense, and Mortarion wanted to make sure they were equipped for every possible scenario. Although, funnily enough, they didn't have, unless feel free to correct me if I'm wrong, but they did not have assault or devastator squads dedicated to fighting. What they did have was a good amount of Terminator armor, though, and as befitting a legion known for being tough as hell, that's only fitting. And as a result, they were pretty good at boarding actions as well as just general getting in a slog and going through it. Mortarian's influence on them wasn't as bad as some of the other traitor legions early on, especially compared to Angron, who jammed his kids full of nails in their brains. Mortarion didn't do anything like that. But his decision to join Horus is, of course, what would turn the Death Guard into what they would become.
Some might call that a bad move.
Yeah, some might
retrospect.
Some might call joining the forces of hell a bit of an uh-oh.
It's a bit of a dodgy choice.
Yeah.
And just a question for you two, am I the only one who would, of all the 4 Chaos Gods to follow, my last option would be Nurgle. I'd rather be
you're
God, Angry God, or Sneaky God rather than Smelly Pus God.
I think Nurgle would be number 2 for me, honestly.
Really?
Well, it's like
Okay. I mean, you
Well,
don't feel
like-
pain, which is good.
well, yeah, there's that, and like Tzeentch, like even if you do everything he wants, he might just decide, yeah, but it would be really funny if you were a chaos spawn right now, and
Yeah,
so he turns you into one.
My naive brain, I just feel like it would be like me trying to play the Stanley Parable, and then I'm just trying to mess it up. And he's like, "No, but I saw that coming. You're not that clever." I'm like, "Oh, sorry, Dad." Yeah, that'd be me.
Unironically, though, by the way they describe it, being a Nurgle worshipper is technically the best, because even by us looking at it now, we're like, that's gross. But as a Nurgle worshipper, you're like, oh my god, this is the best. I'm having my best day ever. And also, you don't feel any pain. You just feel amazing. And you're like, and also your god kind of treats you okay. He's like the grandfather and stuff. I honestly think it, as much as it pains my Tzeentchian heart, it's actually first. Technically, you want to be part of Nurgle because you'd actually be okay. You know what I mean? You'd be like,
Yeah.
you'd be disgusting to all your mates, but you'd be all right, I think.
I'd take Slanesh first, personally.
Enjoys his weekends, don't you?
Hey, man.
You degenerate.
Here for a good time, not for a long one.
Oh, God.
But back to the Death Guard. They were pretty competent early on in the Horus Heresy, especially compared to the menagerie of circus clowns that Horus had on his side. Again, Angron, Conrad, Kurz. Compared to them, Mortarian's like, it's Mortarian. Him and his Death Guard are gonna go do what's got to get done, and that's all you need to say about it. As time went on, though, things would turn against them, especially when they would try and get the White Scars on their side, which is the biggest turning point for them. The Magyar, I know Andy's getting excited. I mentioned the Scars. The Magyar squads of the White Scars were some White Scars who were. We'll talk about them a different time. If
Oh, definitely.
yeah.
So cool.
I mean, we've
But,
already done
so
our White
good.
Scars episode, but the
Yeah.
Sakyam Razan.
Oh, yeah.
Oh,
Yeah, they're we've talked about them before and probably will again, because even I'm not the biggest Scars fan, but I have to admit, pretty damn cool. But for now, all you need to know about them is White Scars who are redeeming themselves in death, proper dwarfy, and they were doing that by keeping Mortarian away from the rest of the Scars, they were buying time to retreat. So Mortarian has the eggs on his face. He's looking a little bit silly, and he gives up and decides it's time to go to Terra with the rest of his Death Guard. When Typhon does a bit of a prank on Mortarian, which is killing all of his navigators. And now the
Bit of a prank, bro.
Yeah, bit of a
imagining
goof.
Typhus now just going,
Bit of
"This is
a
a prank,
goof.
bro."
Yeah. And it tells Mortarian that they were actually secretly loyalists who were plotting to drive their fleet into a supermassive black hole, if I remember correctly, which is would have been a great way to deal with them if that was actually true.
It's also a great Muse song, but yeah.
That wasn't true, though. Typhon at this point was just lying to him. But he says, "Don't worry, Dad. I'll trust all of the psychers and myself, who I'm also a psyker. Trust us. We'll get us to Terra safely." And on the one hand, he didn't technically lie. They did eventually reach Terra. But on the other hand, the Death Guard were stranded in a warp storm where Nurgle also made his move and infected them with the worst of the diseases he had to hand, which, given he's the god of disease, is a whole lot.
The streamer bathwater.
Yeah, it was. It smelled like a convention in the.
Someone did
there.
just say, is it like someone mentioned Asmongold's first shower of the year stream?
Does he not wash? Whoever this guy is. I mean, the only thing is with like the thing you just mentioned, Colin. Like, could you imagine like 100,000 maybe super soldiers, and they're all like buff and nothing can stop, and then all of a sudden they're all like spewing out in both ends, like vomiting and diarrhea and the plague and the. Oh, this isn't good. And you're just a mortal person be like, my fingers are disappearing. What's going on? Help.
Have you ever played Plague Inc., that little phone game where you spread the... I think that's an event you can get.
Yeah.
Your sickness. I think they call it like shotgun syndrome or something.
You got to like instantly get that little island nation.
Madagascar?
Madagascar, that's the one.
It's Madagascar or Greenland or Iceland. All three of those suck to infect. But speaking of infected, the Death Guard, their famed resilience is turning against them now because, while on the one hand they're not dying, on the other hand they're in just unending suffering because they have every disease ever being pumped into them. But because their very DNA is like makes them resilient, it can't kill them, but they're just laying and sitting in agony. Except for Typhon, who is now Typhus, who ate a whole bunch of bugs. Or yeah, that's the Destroyer Hive, right? He basically just ate bugs.
He became the weird kid at school.
I was, I'm paraphrasing a bit what happened, but
kind of. He became the weird kid at school who eats bugs and maintains eye contact all the time.
And Mortarion is also suffering, and to end it, he just gives up and embraces Nurgle. He embraces the god of decay and pestilence, and now the Death Guard have become what they're going to be moving out in 40k, the gross, disgusting, bloated, awful Chaos Marines.
The stinkiest boys in all of the setting. Is that? Do you have any bit more? I do have a question for you if you're ready.
Just a brief, like up to modern 40k, nothing too.
Go for it.
Just jumping up to head to modern 40k for about 10,000 years, they were, as all traitor legions, forced to exist in the Eye of Terror. Theoretically, they remain pretty organized, like the Emperor's Children and World Eaters just completely disintegrated, basically. Theoretically, the Death Guard are a bit more organized, but in practice, Mortarion for a while, didn't really throw his weight around. And Typhus was definitely the most active of their champions, with his Plague Fleet. Probably, I don't think it's ever stated, but I'm gonna go out and say that they probably got the highest kill count out of any traitor force, because they would just spread pestilence out of wherever they go, just infect entire worlds. Well, because like Karn, himself has probably killed more than Typhus, but Typhus and his fleet and the diseases they spread.
Can't lovable puppy boy hit that 1 million on the counter?
Yeah, I suppose you're limited to how quickly you can swing your Gore Child or Chain Axe or whatever. Whereas with the there's like an episode of a guy that looks like this guy really. He spreads a plague through the astropaths, and so they broadcast a virus and it kills loads of people because they're just like the astropaths start the virus and they're like the infection point, and it's like, I don't know how that works, but that's horrid. I don't want it. Thanks.
Evil chaos magic.
Yes.
And the most recent stuff they did was the Plague Wars, where Mortarion and Guilliman throw down. Ultimately, they fail to kill. Well, I mean, they do kill him, but then the Emperor goes nuh-uh and brings Guilliman back.
No, he's my special boy. You can't kill him. Nuh-uh.
And he's pretty much. And of course, Ultramar doesn't fall either because it's Ultramar and the Ultramarines are the best.
Although we do lose Ajax.
Rest in peace.
Not quite Cadia. Every day I wake up and I shed a tear for Cadia.
Alpha suffered enough.
To be fair, I also just want to briefly mention, has there seen that art? There was a brief small bit of lore and some artwork about the Death Guard fighting Tau and that Shadow Sun, I believe. And it's really bizarre because they kind of go, we're fighting Space Marines, but there's something wrong with them. Like, they're just not right. There's something they stink. You know what I mean?
How could you tell? Something about all the fluids, I guess.
Yeah, the fluids. The green pus leaking out of them wasn't right.
Oh, not my favorite flavor.
Speaking of, they were threatening to invade the Tau Empire, but that didn't really go anywhere. They end up fighting some of the remnants of the Fourth Sphere expansion, which was already a complete mess for the Tau anyways, so no substantial losses were really given to the Tau Empire. And other than that, Mortarion got his torso exploded by Kaldar Drago. Oof. And had a Grandmaster's name carved on his heart. Yeah. And there's the basics of the Death Guard. They're stinky, they're tanky, they're unpleasant to be around, but they will give you Nurgle's love anyways.
They are loved, though. They are very much loved. For that, though, we're just going to move into a small section here, boys, where if you guys want to ask any questions just before we head on into the larger part as well.
I hate that poll, man. That's something.
I have no idea who put that there.
Could have been anyone.
Is it possible to go to the shared screen bit, Andy, just for this small little bit? Whilst we're gonna grill Colin here with just a one or two punch question. I've got one for the Death Guard. Hopefully, Colin, if you could answer this one for me.
Sure.
Do you think YouTubers who clean carpets could take on the Death Guard?
What
And how
YouTubers
many?
are-
Have you not seen those videos of people who take like the most disgusting carpets out there, and they like do the full-on like rinse and then the hose spray and then the actual power wash of it? If you've not, people are gonna put in the comments here, and they know exactly what I'm
What are
talking
you
about.
talking about?
The
Hal?
closest
I
I
have things to
can think
do.
of that is like Power Wash Simulator.
Basically, people who are power wash YouTubers. Then that's a better question. Do you think they, how
Is
many?
there
there
a
is
thing?
there is a
Yes.
there is a subreddit called power washing porn, but it's about how satisfying it is to be like, oh, it's so clean, and you have a grimy wall and you just go, psst, and it
Is
just
it like
cuts
a
through it like butter.
Visual
Oh, that's nice.
ASMR kind of thing?
Yeah, basically, where it's just like, look how satisfying that line is. Oh, it's clean.
Yeah, people
Go on
put in the
Reddit and look
chat.
for it.
Seriously, there's a whole thing of like people who clean carpets, and it's so satisfying because it's
That's
just
like
like
a TikTok.
it's
thing. I'm
ASMR.
not
It's not
15 years
TikTok. It's on
old.
YouTube. I'm not a child. I'm an adult. But it's actually really satisfying. I just wonder how many attempts it would take just to clean one plague marine or a
I-
power washer. Would you power wash a plague marine?
I feel like
I-
it would be an endless, like, you clean him and then he's instantly like, I've got more pus. And you're like, oh, it would just
I
keep going.
the only way to
endless.
clean them is with like melta weapons.
Oh
I
my God.
agree. Melted them.
I think Jack Dawes, he puts the satisfying YouTube videos where people power wash carpets that should be launched into the sun. No, Jack, I need you on my side, brother, please. It shouldn't be launched into the sun. Morning from Australia. Thank you, Prince Hades. Good to see you, brother. Hopefully, we're probably ruining your morning here with
We
this
hope
kind
you
of
can
talk.
see the stream okay, considering it's upside down. But thanks
Oh,
for being here.
God.
What do you mean it's upside down?
Because it's in Australia. Oh my
Yeah,
God.
it's a
Oh.
good-
Damn it.
I think the carpet thing would just be little Nurglings holding hands. Not quite. That would be cool though. It would take more than 100 times to clean it. I guess that's basically my question: is the carpet cleaning
100
question?
times a day, perhaps. I reckon.
Yeah. I wonder if like a
I
whole
think
thing like
I
power
think that's
wash.
100 to the power of 100 times to clean them. That
Oh,
one's
okay.
probably more accurate.
Yeah. Power wash. If you power washed a
Ooh, here's a question.
Nurgling.
Here's a good one. How do you reckon the Death Guard would do if they were faced by Mr. Clean himself?
Oh, Mr. Clean would curb stomp them. He's Mr. Clean.
I'm just imagining the Doom music just going to do, and he just goes, and he just like clean powers everywhere, and everyone's like, "Oh, I'm not smelly
Mr.
anymore," and then
Mr.
he just
Clean.
instantly decapitates.
Do you
them
guys have
just
the
for good measure.
crazy Sillet Bang adverts where it's like the over the top version? Sillet Bang hand grenade or something like that.
Oh,
Have you
Peter
seen those ones?
Serafinowicz.
Yeah.
Toilet gun. Bang, bang, bang. Toilet's
we-
clean again.
Can we
Yeah,
just
Peter
throw that
Serafinowicz
guy
is
at
great.
Typhus and just see who emerges? Like
He-
two men
fun
into
fact-
one man leaves.
Fun fact, Colin, he is Pate in Dark Souls 2.
Ah, good
He's a
man.
voice actor and he's a
Oh.
comedian, and he has an amazing sketch series you can watch on YouTube. I'll send it to you later. And he was
Please
Darth
do.
Maul's voice actor
Is he? Is he not?
In
in the first film.
Oh, in the
Yeah,
first
'cause
film.
Trey
I
Park. Trey
Mm.
Park is Australian. And I met him, and he's not. It's the same. It's the thing with Siths. You get Darth Vader. It's what's his name? Who was from the West Country. All right, I'm Darth Vader.
Oh, the guy who actually played Darth Vader, but then
Yeah, it's
they
the same
with
redubbed his
Darth
Maul.
voice.
Yeah.
So Peter Serafinowicz did the voice for Darth Maul, and he had like a bunch of. There's a video on YouTube of him talking to Richard Herring, and he's all like, "Oh, I got to do like a good few hours of dialogue, and then it was like 3 lines, and then he had to pay to go to the premiere of the film he was in New York, I think it was." And it's like, oh,
Oh, I think I've seen that. It's sad.
That's dirty.
poor Peter, and he's paid in
Yeah.
Dark Souls too because he loves Dark Souls.
Damn. I thought they said like they didn't want to have famous people, did they, in Dark Souls, just because they were like, oh, they're worried it would overshadow the voice actors.
Yeah.
But
I'm glad they
speaking
got
of
him because he's a lovely pate.
lovely
Good man.
Pate,
Good, trustworthy man.
He's very trustworthy. I have no idea what you're on about. He doesn't lie once to you.
Emperor Zan says they clean by the purifying flames. Absolutely true. Good on you,
Correct.
brother. Speaking of that, though, is everyone here ready for the expert section / the full Schmeat, shall we say, of the
I
Death Guard
am,
lore?
in fact, ready for that horrible thing. That
The
you just left
Schmeat
your
of the
mouth.
Death Guard lore. Okay.
Horrid words.
So, as we said, this is kind of the morning breath of all legions. If you guys are ready for your, I'm going to keep saying again, the Schmeat of the lore that will be gifted to
Look,
you
you
here.
can say horrible things. You just got to mix them up. You can't say the same thing every time.
What do you mean? That's exactly repeat comedy. It's the same joke, and that's how it's funny.
We're not
you
here
got
to do
variety.
the Conan O'Brien of comedy. Come on, you can't just be like, let's
Pee
just do
pee
it
poo
again,
poo.
and again, and again.
Poo poo pee
Bring
pee.
it out like a very overused udder. Like, no, stop.
An overused udder.
An overused one.
Speaking of overused udders, it's time for some creative GW writing here, because this is okay. Just for preference, before we get into this, some of it is inconsistent because multiple authors have had a go. This thing's been attacked, it's been regurgitated and fed, banged, cooked again. But there's some really good parts of Death Guard lore that we will deliver to you now. So the Death Guard themselves, 14th Legion, as we said before, smelly boys. They're kind of known for being corrupted by Nurgle, absolutely disgusting. They look horrific. Even their tabletop models are pretty sick. They do. If you're not particularly great at painting or anything like that, you just have a go at these guys. You can kind of you can make anyone feel like you've got a good grasp of painting. And their story begins in the 30th millennium. This is on the world called Barbarous. Now, Barbarous is kind of like if you took think of where you are watching this from your country and think of the worst city you have there, and then just make it 100 times worse. This thing, yeah. But I don't want to name specific names because I feel like if there's an easy Chicago joke, we've already said.
Yeah, I was going to say, I'll
it.
do it then.
Chicago, the Chicago of all planets for the Primarch. I don't know what a Chicago accent is. I don't know how they'd sound, but
I don't know. Imagine
just
me.
Met Chicago or something. I don't know.
Chicago. You don't say Ago. People say Chicago who are stupid and wrong. It's Chicago.
Chicago.
Won't you bend my... Just watch the musical Chicago and you can do it easy. It's fine.
So Barbarous itself is a very mountainous and craggy, but also toxin-ridden planet. It's horrific to live on. The people who do live there, their life is pretty ball. It's absolutely sucks because the noxious gases. Most of the human inhabitants that live here, the world itself has kind of regressed technology back to an era where essentially you plowing fields, and they kind of have some proto armor, like powered armor, but it's humanity at its worst. The many different crags and high places on Barbarous are all owned by this race called the Overlords. And the Overlords, they described as something that was probably human a long time ago, but they made pacts with something that was possibly a dark god. We probably can guess who that is. And they turn into twisted undead creatures. And the Overlords are very much as you probably think of what the word Overlord entails, they are like petty politicians, but they're also a little bit murderous. So it's a little bit, a little bit of squeeze of lemon
Just
on
like
that.
the Necrons.
Basically, yes.
They've got side hobbies. Murder.
They do. Speaking of their side hobbies, they build things kind of like a Warhammer fan, except they build them out of dead people, and that's not typical of Warhammer fans.
It's recycling, isn't it?
If there's probably one guy who's going to put in the chat this is exactly what I do. Why are you calling me out? Listen, Greg, it's not about you. So the Overlords are like a disgusting undead race, and they very much prey on the normal humans of this world. Again, the whole world's full of noxious and poisonous gas. It's even worse at the height. You think it would sink, but apparently this gas just floats to the top. So the one's
lighter than air.
Depends on the poison you're using. If it's a Friday night,
are lighter than air, right?
I guess so, yeah. But it's not specified which one. True. And so the worst of these Overlords are very cruel, and they basically fight petty wars between each other. And the worst of them live on the highest peaks. And one of them would eventually just be battling another one. He's having another little petty squabble, and he would one day hear this crying child in the middle of the toxic mist. He would hear a crying baby, and he thought, that's odd. and this is where he would discover the fallen Primarch Mortarion. And Mortarion had obviously been whisked away from Terra at this point. And when he found Mortarion, he didn't initially go, "Oh wow, that's a child. I should help it. You know, that thing needs protection." It actually,
He went, "Oh, that's annoying."
this
like me.
He actually kind of did his whole like rub hands together and went, "Yo, I kind of, it's like pimp my ride." Where this guy went, "This was nice, but this is cool." Yeah, no, it's a proper like, you know, like rub it like that kind of one. It's like, "Yo, I'm gonna have me some of that."
Children,
and
which is a bad take.
Yeah, okay, we're taking this the wrong way.
I don't like this hole we're digging.
End of change from law crimes to war crimes very quickly. He would just find this crying child, and it was particularly weird because, first of all, this was at the layer where most humans would die, and it was also being protected by another overlord. So this overlord called Nikair, who basically killed a rival, he thought, that seems like it's a prize, that'll be mine. And he would eventually raise Mortarion up to be he tried to make him as cruel and as vindictive as him, trying to blacken Mortarion's heart. He had a very terrible life, that Primarch. And even though he grew and he was exceptional, he still was not like broken in a way such as this monster, this almost human undead creature called Nikair. Until one day when Mortarion, who was often sent out as like a sort of courier boy, or just basically he was thrown out to fight other overlords. As
I'm just imagining another rival Necron just going, "It was rigged from the start." Benny,
you messed up, boy.
Benny,
he was a very glorified delivery boy, except sometimes
he would deliver death,
murder. Yeah,
very much delivering death. He was sent out to fight impossible other malformed creatures created by other overlords, and every time basically Mortarion almost died, Nikair would just loom over him and go, "Nice try, brother," sort of thing, and just like, you know, GG gamer, sort of a bit. He was a bit out of touch.
Call an ambulance, but not for me.
Yeah,
not for you either. Get back up, asshole.
This would eventually breed a lot of resentment and hate in Mortarion. Nikair was also a psyker and you know, vile sorcerer. And this would eventually lead to the day where, famously, Mortarion had enough. And as he saw some other humans being brought up to the fortress, they were coughing and spluttering. One of them broke free from these flesh golem guards were taking them up to be basically taken to the laboratory to have some quote-unquote fun done to them. And one of them broke free, and it was actually near the fortress of Mortarion that this happened. And this other ordinary human, he was using magic and all kinds of things as other them tried to escape. Bad touch. And he would try. This ordinary human was breaking free from the golems, and he caught sight of Mortarion, and he basically asked for help us. And Mortarion, for the first time in his life, actually made a choice for himself, and so he basically leaps off this fortress. And he had this sort of like cool like pepper box gun, and he started firing into these flesh golems, and he freed the first human ever from Nikair's sort of grip. And this human was called Kalas Typhon. Unfortunately, this guy is going to come up again. This is a big sad moment in the chat for this bad boy here, because this guy would ruin everything. This is the friend you made in uni who you're just like,
he's not quite Erebus, but he's not far off. He's like, "Oh, I want to punch you almost as hard in the face, just a little bit less.
Just a bit less."
Like, I'll punch you in the face and I'll kick Erebus in the nuts. Like, that's the scale we're on right now.
That's the hierarchy.
Yeah. This guy. So they would both kind of, as you do when you basically commit anarchy and rebellion, they'd run off together holding hands down the mountain. Sort of, well, not quite like that. It was a lot cooler. And they would reach the first human village that Mortarion would ever see. And it's quite a cool moment where Mortarion hears music for the first time, and he sees all these normal people living, and he kind of goes, "Damn, I missed out on so much." You know, he never went to college, never had his first party, all that kind of stuff. Not really. And as they were in this village, Mortarion essentially decides to save the people of Barbaros. They, like him, had been tortured, enslaved, broken, and used as tools, and he had had enough. So Mortarion says, "I'm gonna basically, it's all, he's taking control. He's like, this is a weird reference. I don't know. In my head, I thought this is like Dana White. He's uniting the UFC, but but it's nowhere near.
So wait, hold on. Who's Joe Rogan in this analogy? Come
I'm
on.
lost.
Joe Rogan is not here yet because this is later. For no reason,
Better
that
not
was in
be
my
the
head.
Emperor. That's not going to work.
No idea why Dana White is not Mortarion, by the way.
Maybe he's Malcador. Maybe he's Malcador, but like
kind of
buff.
looks like him, to be fair. So Mortarion would join with the people. He'd grab a scythe from his iconic weapon, essentially from the fields, and he would start helping the people. Immediately, they basically get attacked by another overlord, like one of the petty ones, and Mortarion kills his first overlord. And in that sort of moment where all these people who've been afraid of them, and they lived in like little villages where they kind of had to hide at night from the monster that lived in the smoke that came out, they would actually see him as a symbol of hope. And that would be the formation of the Death Guard, which their symbol, I believe, is the setting or rising sun with the skull on it, sort of basically showing that death comes to them every day. And so this is the first proper formation of the Death Guard. It's actually just a human sort of contingent. They would take their knowledge and training from Mortarion, and they'd build like proto power armor or sort of very rustic things, but things that would help them fight within the toxic mist, the things that they've been afraid of for so long, and they would go to battle. And this would begin the Barbarous War, which it's not specified how long this is, but this is like supposedly either like a decade or a few years.
Yeah. There is a through line with every story in Warhammer. You never know exactly how. Like I was listening to the first Twice Dead King book again today, and it was like, oh, he's in prison for several years. I'm like, unless you explicitly mention it, it's really difficult to gauge for a lot of these stories in 40k, because again, the stakes are some characters can live for 1,000+ years. It's like, 100 years, oh, that was quick. One paragraph.
I think it might not have been too long since Kalas Typhon was still able to be turned into a space marine. At this point, everyone, it's really funny because like everyone like falls in love with Mortarion. Like everyone loves Raymond. Man, that's gonna be an old reference now. Everyone's like, oh, Mortarion, he's kind of a little bit spooky looking, but they all are on Barbarous. They're all a bit emaciated, but they sort of look to him as like, oh my god, my savior. And then they look to their right, and there's Kalas Typhon, and everyone can see he's kind of half overlord, half human, so his skin's a little even more waxy and disgusting, and everyone just hates him.
The thing is,
as they should.
This is like a really small gripe, but as a man who likes to wear a beard on many occasions, he's one of the few Space Marines with a beard, and he lets the side down. It's like, we don't have dwarfs. That's already an L for us as Warhammer 40k fans. And he's like, I've got a big beard, and I'm a dick.
This
giving us a bad name.
Breezed right by the leaks of Votan.
They're recent. I mean, like 40k. Who has a beard? Like 30k, 30k. Who's got a beard?
That's a good point. People put in the chat, who has beard?
Does Lehman have a
Iran.
beard?
That's the only character.
Lehman doesn't have a beard?
Space Wolves.
Space Wolves is like all beard.
Space Wolves, yeah, but then Fafnir Iran, and that's everyone.
That's a good point. More beard for the beard boys.
Although I do like that Imperial Fists captain who has the big moustache. I'm like, yes, more of that, please. In the recent, he's like the Praetorian with the big sword, and he's in the trailer for Horus Heresy.
Oh yeah.
I know the.
That guy's mustache was cool.
So the big, what's it called? Not Cyberpunk. The
handlebar. Oh, the whisk, like proper whiskey
like
one.
The big one. Yeah. That.
Damn, the lion also more beard. He has
and the lion's bringing up the standards. Like, yes, more beards, please.
Thank you, Devin Griffin, for a good point there. And so this will begin the Barbarous War, and essentially, because I do love how this is said in the books, because the overlords are so petty, they can't unite together because they hate each other so much. They are very much like proper politicians, and they're like, listen, I hate you so much, but you're worse. And it's like, I could help, but you're worse. And they the Death Guard sort of take them on one by one. They sort of go into the mists and hunt them down. And eventually they fight all the way back to only one overlord remaining, which is Nikaer, Mortarian's adoptive foster father / tormentor. And this
That
is
dick.
yeah, that pretty much the absolute worst of them. And this is when they eventually try. They have to. Nikaer is at the very highest mountain, so this is even tougher. They tried like a first attempt, and it goes horribly wrong because there's just Mortarion, who's this hulking mass, and then there's like ordinary humans going, "Bro, I can't keep up." It's like your friend who cycles all the time, and then they say like, "Do you want to go for a cycle ride?" And they just give you the worst. Like it's a full mountain, and you're like, you hate them by 10 minutes in, and Mortarian's held back by the normal humans and basically the Death Guard. So they go back, have a round 2, but this is sort of where they meet the Emperor. I won't go into too much detail because it's more Mortarian's story rather than the Death Guard. But essentially, it ends up with Mortarion trying again, sort of making a bet with the Emperor that not really a bet, but making a deal that if he wins,
wager, I suppose.
yeah, if he manages to kill Nikaer, the Death Guard and the people of Barbarous are free from the Imperium. They don't have to be in compliance. They're basically fine. They can live life as they want, which Mortarion unfortunately fails, and the Emperor has to save his life. And this means that the Death Guard and those of Barbarous are now part of the Imperium. So good old Morty here,
Trade one
very
villain
much
for another.
for him, he's not happy because he thinks he failed his people, which kind of did. Let's just be honest. He kind of absolutely ruined it. You know what I mean? He messed it up.
He did try.
Yeah.
Sometimes your
there
best
is no
isn't enough.
participation medal in 40k.
like you tried. You tried.
Look, sometimes your best isn't enough.
We do try our best.
Lesson, but
to quote the 21st century philosopher's Linkin Park, but in the end, it doesn't even matter. Morty, I'm gonna walk up to the castle and try to fight Nikaer. Oh, my breath, my lungs, and I'm an asthmatic. I'm a card-carrying asthmatic man. And I'm gonna have a go at Mortarion for having weak lungs.
Yo, they give you license cards? I didn't know that. Damn, they give you cards and everything. Okay,
I know.
That's the inhaler. But essentially, Death Guard now, they are part of the Imperium, and Mortarion himself, he would be gifted as his ascension as a proper Primarch. He'd be gifted the Dusk Raiders. Whoop-de-hoo, because the Dusk Raiders are probably... he doesn't deserve them, let's be honest. The Dusk Raiders are the 14th Legion that were founded upon Terra, and they had won much honors and glory during the Great Crusade at this point. Obviously, as Colin mentioned earlier, they're kind of renowned for how they earned their moniker, which was that they would essentially attack when the light was failing, and then it'll be an all-out shock assault. And many sort of famous legionaries who we'll mention in a bit are also part of this legion. They're all from Terra as well. But Mortarion, as he is gifted a legion, he sort of goes, listen, I like that dish, but it's not my favorite dish. He wants that Eastern European, proper hard boiled onion soup gruel. He wants it exactly how he wants it. So he begins to mold the legion into his own sort of image and the way and the traditions of Barbarous. So the Death Guard themselves, who at the time were basically just normal humans in power armor fighting undead creatures and mists, the youngest of them / the ones who are still of age will then be elevated into Astartes, one such as Vorux. There's also our friend Typhon. Again, L's for Typhon because he's a disgusting human being and deserves everything he got.
His beard's a bad name.
L.
Yeah, he's we despise him on Lorecrimes. It's an official statement of Lorecrimes. I definitely think he could be hosed down and cleaned like a carpet. In my opinion, that's going to keep coming up. And so many of them would undergo the process of becoming Space Marines. The Dusk Raiders themselves would be renamed into the Death Guard, and the original sort of human Death Guard, the ones that were too old, or they had both men and women, they would essentially be left on Barbarous to sort of take care of the planet. And many of the traditions that were born in the Death Guard were also brought into the Legion Death Guard. So they had the tradition of Mortarion, after a victory, they would drink a poison chalice to sort of remind themselves that they're basically testing themselves and life every day, so they always challenge themselves.
It's the weirdest tradition. What I was reading about that, I was like, why? What is the point?
It was originally, well, the original version of it was before they made the ascent on Nikare's fortress, and essentially these guys have been basically. Has anyone here seen The Great Escape? You guys watched the film The Great Escape?
Just ask if I've seen a movie.
Sorry, I forgot.
Yeah.
For people who are listening, Colin doesn't watch films ever. No, you just look at your face.
I
And you
think
just don't watch.
the last one I saw in theaters was Oppenheimer, I think.
Although,
That's pretty recent.
Can
yeah,
I,
but before.
Can I briefly mention a comment that tickled me because of the asthma thing I mentioned? We've got Dan. We go from pancreas no work to lungs barely work. I think that's my new. I even take lung steroids every day. Lungs barely. That's my new name. Lungs barely work.
Lungs barely work.
What's your?
You're gonna let them roast you like that?
What's your thing?
What's my thing?
Yeah, what's broken with you?
Oh, everything. Why do you think we make Warhammer content? I forgot what I was going to say now. Where was I? Oh, yeah. So
Drink
the actual
poison.
the poison tradition came about where it's sort of like in the film from The Great Escape, where they kind of brew vodka in prison. They essentially were brewing up a alcohol, and then Mortarion was like, "That's pretty good. Now give me the raw stuff." And they were like, "Huh?" And they were like, "We're not ready for that. We're not." And then they all had, like, the humans had a taste of it, and they basically went, like, they basically like couldn't hack it. And that's kind of where the tradition was born from, where they were basically essentially drinking poison, like 100% ethanol at that point. And they were like, "We survived, but barely.
We did
we did it, boys."
Reminds me
And
that,
go ahead.
it was like a Persian noble who kept he would like microdose poison to build up an immunity, and then when the Romans came a knocking, he tried to poison himself to kill himself so the Romans couldn't get him. Except he built up an immunity to poison for his whole life.
Didn't Rasputin do that as well?
I think they tried. I don't know if he did it,
Because
but
I know they tried to poison him and they shot him and ditched him in the river. But I feel like he drank little bits of poison gradually, so that when he was poisoned, he didn't die. And then they were like, "It's a miracle," but really, it was like, no, he was preparing for an assassination attempt.
I think I know which guy you're talking about, Colin, but the name escapes me. But like, there's other traditions of the Death Guard, like their way of war, their weapons, like the scythe. That was all essentially made into like the new Death Guard. So they're a full legion, and there are some like notable legionaries here. So there's Nathaniel Garrow. This is our main boy. Nathaniel Garrow is an absolute Chad, and we appreciate him greatly. I think Andy did a video on him not long ago, didn't he?
I done too.
He's
all right. He's all right.
Oh no, from his books, he's an actual Chad.
He's fantastic.
He's cool. And as I fortunately mentioned earlier, Kalas Typhon, who would eventually become the first captain. And obviously, I should mention now, also very good friend of Mortarion. So they actually are friends. Mortarion does have friends, as much as people think he doesn't. Kaifer Morag, who is the equerry of Mortarion later.
Yep.
Vorax, who would become a future sort of 40k Death Lord / master of his own, not chapter.
Is it the Lords of Silence he leads?
Yeah, it's from the Lords of Silence books, really good books. Ignatius Grugor is also another name that has to be mentioned.
The commander of the Second Company.
This will be mentioned earlier. Oh, someone just put Devin Griffith said there was a Chinese emperor that drank mercury. No, I wonder how that going.
Correct. I believe he thought it was the secret to eternal life. And when his court tried to tell him he's being an idiot, he had them executed.
And he said,
"Secret to eternal sleep." Not very. Listen, it's not improve. Was it adapt, approve, overcome?
He did get eternal life in a way, because I remember that story.
In a way, so many like the notable legionaries are all, they're kind of prominent at this time, and then Mortarion is part of the Imperium of Man. Death Guard is all united with Primarch. The many recruits from Barbarous are now flooding into the Death Guard. There's no Norterran recruits, and the Legion is united. It's like, big celebration, and they think, how do we perfectly celebrate the unification of Primarch, Legion, and Tactics. They go on a hunt / war. They basically think there's no other way to celebrate. And this would begin their first ever compliance with the infamous Lords of Galaspar Empire. Now, for people who are listening, they might hear some similarities about the Lords of Galaspar here. The Lords of Galaspar was essentially a ruling dynasty, like fascistic empire that had people operate, like people below them didn't even have numbers. They were just all slave castes. And they basically had, when your life was at an end, working in horrific factories or in the army as slave soldiers, you basically were turned into protein paste. And I think you can kind of guess where like that's very reminiscent of, which is mostly the modern 40k Imperium.
Corpse starch.
They very much turn into tasty treats. It was a horrific life, and the people, they didn't even have names. Most humans didn't have names on the world. They just were ruled by the Lords of Galaspar. It's kind of a weird, like Orwellian dictatorship thing where like they propaganda in these planets constantly blast like 24/7. It is horrifically annoying. But that's not why they had to be defeated. Because being annoying is not a crime, even though Warhammer can be like that sometimes.
I don't know. I feel like being annoying should be a crime for certain social media influencers. Like,
I think
arrest that person. They're
Social
people
crime.
Annoying.
People who bother
Get
me
'em.
should be put to death.
Yeah.
That's not a held position of law crimes. That is, in fact,
It's a hell
we are not
position of
supporting that.
2/3 of law crimes currently. I don't know.
2/3 of law crimes wish to execute people. Okay. Someone said
Just
so.
don't be annoying, and there's no issue.
Someone just put so
Yeah.
that's you described. So basically, it sounds like modern day Britain. Not quite. We still have elections, but the rest is all the same.
Do we?
Yeah. There's one coming up.
I don't know.
every...
I moved to the UK last year, and it just seems like, oh, so and so's in charge. And I'm like, I didn't have anything to do with
I mean,
it.
our elections are every like 5 years. It feels like forever. Also, we've had like 4 prime ministers in 5 years.
Dude, shout out to that one lady who quit after like 30 minutes or whatever.
Oh,
She
Liz Truss.
lasted 40 days, and there was like a whole thing in the news about how a lettuce outlasted her.
There's a comedian I know on the circuit who has a bit where he says about like Liz Truss became the first, the shorter serving prime minister in the UK, and so was the second. And at least he had the good decency to die. It's like, yeah, that makes sense. He died while he was serving, so like he had an excuse, but still.
Someone says, "Where's the jacked lil fella?" Eli's not able to make this episode, unfortunately.
He
today
heard we were talking about Death Guard, and he refused to be present.
You could smell this from a mile away. But he will be the next one. Don't worry, boys. As I was saying though, so the Lords of Galaspar, basically, essentially what the modern 40k Imperium would turn out to be. It was a small pocket empire, and they're all much of the Imperium was like, how are we going to do this, because they seem incredibly powerful. And Mortarion and the Death Guard went, that sounds cool, how about we do it instead of 10 years, let's do it in a day. So they basically launched meteors with rockets attached to the back at their capital, and they just hid behind them all the way until they rocketed down and they showered them over the planet. And essentially they were going straight for the head, and they were trying to take off the Lords of Galaspar. And it begins this sort of incredibly like rough and brutal battle where the Death Guard fight beside Mortarion for the first time, and they're making their way through these layers of this defense where every time in the book it peaks back to the Lords of Galaspar, they're basically going, this is impossible, this shouldn't happen, because it's basically breaking their psyche that something could challenge them. And they eventually do. The Death Guard have there's some cool scenes in this book where it shows you their tactics. So one moment the Galasparian like slave armies like launching towards the Death Guard, and then suddenly like artilleries of poison clouds just launch upon them, and the Death Guard just run through their own poison clouds and then just start hacking the soldiers who are choking down, and Mortarion's like with them. So it's actually quite a cool story, and it basically ends up with Mortarion capturing the Lords of Galaspar. He executes them, and the reason this one was chosen as Mortarion's like first adventure / first Death Guard, Legion battle, was because he kind of saw many similarities between the Overlords and the Lords of Galaspar, like kind of tyrants, and he hated it. Mortarion's got a bit of a complex, and when they leave, in fact, only a year later, Horus and Sanguinius, so his brothers, come to him. They kind of talk about this is no victory, this massive war, because Mortarion technically eliminated the Lords of Galaspa, and he killed the tyrants and the Death Guard fought well, but they essentially didn't build anything to replace it. I think even Sanguinius and Horus say, you cut off one thing with an overwhelming power only for one other, basically an overwhelming power was killed by another overwhelming power. You didn't really do anything. You just replaced it. The egg, the egg didn't kill the overlords, unfortunately, but maybe Eli. But it kind of would show you how the Death Guard operate in a way in which they are very much, Horus perfectly describes it as very obviously on the nose, but they are the Reaper's scythe. I think then even Horus comments you need to be sometimes the one who sows the grain, not just reap the scythe too. You need to build things in their place. But that's kind of how the Death Guard would operate. So much of the Great Crusade, they would often be an overwhelming force that would annihilate enemies. Oh yeah, go ahead, Andy.
I would say there's a great quote from Ferrus Manus, who was like, "Oh, there's no one I would want to fight less than the Death Guard," because they are just ruthless and annoying bastards. Is something like that. He's just no, my Death Guard video. I start with the quote from Ferrus because it's there's no one I'd rather not fight than the Death Guard, and no one I'd rather have with me than the Death Guard, because they are just difficult to deal with.
They are incredibly. Okay, sorry.
I was just say high praise for Mr. Iron Hands.
Mr. Iron Hands.
The
Iron Hands.
Legendarily
of the Iron Hands.
difficult to impress one was no thanks. I don't want to deal
I'm
with that.
good.
Yeah, they are incredibly resilient. They're known to endure toxins way beyond other Astartes, and they are particularly ruthless. Although many in the Legion, such as the Terrans, were very much not happy with the direction, but they're it kind of is what it is. We're still building, the Great Crusade / Imperium of Man, so it's okay.
We'll live.
And we'll make it. It's all right, boys. And this would continue for centuries, and this would be the Great Crusade, Mortarion and the Death Guard fighting. They would be often sent to the outskirts. I guess it's because obviously they weren't really a good symbol for the Imperium, so they're kind of sent to fight the more horrific stuff. But this was all kind of building to another event in the Death Guard history, which was the Ascension of Horus, the War Master. Would be an event where the galaxy sort of Imperium changed. Now the Emperor's gone back to Terra, but the Death Guard themselves, they're kind of we basically have to impress Horus now. And then after this would be the Edict of Nicaea. The Death Guard themselves don't actually have any psychers within the Legion. And you're probably thinking, you might be thinking earlier, isn't that Callus Typhon guy who basically Mortarion saved? Didn't he use some psychic stuff earlier when they escaped Nicaea and stuff? Yeah, he did. He's also a psyker, but one of the things that they didn't want to talk about it, him and Mortarion, and even many other psychers within the Legion, they were sort of shunted off to Callus Typhon. They're basically hush, hush, bro, we don't really want to mention it. It's kind of a shameful secret. It'll be one of the guys saying they did something disgusting on a night out once, and they just don't ever mention it again, please, brothers. But
hey man, it happens.
It happens.
Are rough.
Happens the best of us. Sometimes you wake up on a bin and you don't know how. Not relatable. And very much this will build up to the Edict of Nicaea, which was a big event in Imperial history where essentially headed by Mortarion and the Death Guard and the Space Wolves, they wanted to get rid of all psychers within their legions because they were that crap is disgusting, my dude. That really grinds my gears. That's just awful. They hate psychic powers. The only time they ever see it is basically related to Nicaea and the Overlords. They were psychers. They were tyrants. Psychers are used as, powerful machine, weapons of war. People can't be trusted. They would succeed though, and poor old Magnus would get himself slapped up silly, and they would lose the right to use psychic powers in the legions.
Nerd.
But then,
L.
big L after this. Someone said you have to have a very high IQ to understand Mortarion.
Shut up.
He is the definition of what's the thing something on their shoulders, isn't it? It's he's got a chip on his shoulder. He's very much the definition of chip on the shoulder.
Did you not get what that was referencing?
No, I didn't. Sorry,
a Rick and Morty joke.
Oh, God.
Although, can I show off a piece of artwork I've just
I'm so
recently
lame.
made for Mortarion and us?
You
Ooh,
can
I
share
would,
it. Share with the
please do.
crowd.
There we go.
I don't know what to make of that.
It's beautiful.
It
Thank
is
you.
beautiful and yet horrific. Also, like the Death Guard, disgustingly beautiful.
Okay.
For people who are listening only to the audio, switch on the cam, watch it now. But essentially, though, so yeah, Death Guard, big W. They got rid of all psychers now, and they're continuing the Great Crusade. This is when the next kind of event would hit them, where Horus, good old Horus Lupercal, favored son of the Emperor, would come to them, and Horus would say to Mortarion, I need you, bro, because I'm moving next week, and I need you to come help me move stuff, essentially.
And
But
by
the thing is,
moving, I mean murder my dad.
yeah, by moving, can you move this old git off of the old golden throne? Because he is not meant to be there. But in all seriousness, he says to Mortarion and the Death Guard, essentially, that the Emperor's a psyker. He's lied about the warp. There are things in there. The Emperor's going to turn himself into a god. You're not, the Death Guard are not in the future. They're going to be torn down and forgotten like so many other Primarchs. He's basically going to kill you all. He's going to hand over the Imperium to little old normal humans, weak humans that get ill and stuff. So you can tell Mortarion, who was and the Death Guard, very much no, that's not going to happen. No. And obviously Mortarion always having a chip on his shoulder since failing to sort of save his Death Guard and his Legion or his men on Barbarous from joining the Imperium. He's always hated the Emperor, so he kind of went, all right, boys, it's it's fortnight, where are we landing? Because he's about to land some heavy blows on the Imperium. And this would begin the first act of betrayal. So the kind of opening stages of the massive Horus heresy. Good old Isfahan 3, the sort of not quite the bigger number one, but this is also a bit of a spicy dish. Isfahan 3 would be where the Death Guard would purge themselves of all of the legionaries whose loyalty to the Emperor was way too much. It was a bit too much. They were like, not happy with that. A bit too, not enough. See, I like this. This is Mortarion, but this is better, and this is Emperor. They were like, we need to be.
There are no unions in the Legiones Astartes.
No. Well, funny enough, there was one technically called the Warrior Lodge, which was there was a Warrior Lodge. It's not really a union. I guess it is a union. I didn't really think about that.
I guess, yeah.
Fortunately, it's a union on the side of hell.
Yeah. For people
It's
listening,
a union.
the Warrior Lodges, the next layer of this iceberg, the Warrior Lodges were that it was a group sort of started by good old our friend Erebus and also helped by good old Typhon here. And it was in a way for legionaries to meet within the Legion, and they basically would sort of have a hangout, and they could not have their rank, get in the way of things. It basically was like a nice night with the boys.
It's a nice
gentleman's
club.
It was a gentleman's club that turned into, we've kind of got some secrets going, and also we're spreading some funky ideas. It's kind of a weird, it was a bit like incel-y sort of things will go, like that's the kind of vibe it had. And then this would be well, that's the kind of way it went. And then it would
Get
spread.
Nurgle pilled, bros.
Nurgle pilled, bro. What are you saying? Where's your Bugatti?
Not get Nurgle pilled.
And this was spread throughout the legions, and it was sort of a testing ground to see who was more Emperor. So which funny enough, most of the Terrans were a little bit more loyal to the Emperor than they were Mortarion, who, it was their Primarch, but they weren't as huge a fan. Isfahan 3, the loyalist elements would be sent to the world and essentially be blown up and hunted down by the Death Guard, leaving the Legion quote unquote pure, and they would now be ready to start the proper Horus heresy. This would then lead on to good old Isfahan 5, the massacre. I won't go into too much detail on that because basically the Death Guards end up fighting salamanders and other kind of things, but they didn't really do much. And yeah, so after that,
The
there's
Death
not really
Guard
much.
fought the free legions that became the like least represented in 40.
Yeah.
The free chapters no one cares about except for the salamanders.
They didn't. There wasn't much story progression. They were just kind of like a forced battle on Isfahan 5.
I will
And
say,
then go ahead, sorry.
I will say I don't think it wasn't explicitly stated, but I will defend the salamanders here. It was the theory that since like fighting chaos, since they're beings made of emotion, like guns are less effective than like swords and whatnot because it's like more personal than just the end of a gun. So, and I think
Yeah.
like the theory goes that because the salamanders are so good with fire, it's like it's a legion of cleansing flames that would be really good at chaos, which is why they were targeted first. Which I don't know.
I'm
That's
just
just
a
like
bit-
I think like a fan theory though. But that was just like salamanders are
I'm
cool.
just a bit bitter that the salamanders had so many books in the Horus Heresy series and none of them are particularly good. It's like,
Oh,
God
pain.
damn it.
So much pain. But speaking of something that isn't a good part of a book, Andy's going to quickly dip out for a second here. I will mention though, which was Prospero. Prospero was the homeworld of Magnus and the Thousand Suns. It's kind of looked like a bit of paste right now. It was blown up, absolutely destroyed,
Blue.
but this is in the wake of this was destroyed by the Space Wolves. And on Prospero, Mortarion and the Death Guard would confront Jagatai Khan, and they basically went, "Yo, bro, you want to join us? Hop in, join us. Want to be part of the Traitors Club?" Because they are very much at this point. The Death Guard are realizing, "Oh man, we're going to destroy the evil Emperor, get rid of all the Psykers." And they look to their left and to their right, and they're going, "Oh my god, we're surrounded by Psykers."
They saw
chaos.
the world leaders who were going a little bit nuts, and then they looked over to the word bearers who were summoning demons left, right, and center. They're like, "I think we picked
and
the
the
wrong
Emperor's
team."
children who were huffing people, like
Yeah,
snorting people in dust.
and Jagadai at that point, like, he had like no real clue what was going on because he would always be
No,
on the
Jagatai had
outskirts.
no idea what was happening.
He just knew things were exploding that probably shouldn't be exploding.
He was surprised to see Mortarion, and it was also a calculated plan by Mortarion to. He basically wanted to speak to Jagatai to basically say, "I need an ally in this sort of traitor fight." And Jagatai, you don't like the Emperor too. And Jagatai went, "Yeah, but you're worse." And it would end up with the Death Guard sort of fighting with the White Scars for a bit, and it would start a rivalry between these two legions that would go on to be problems. For Mortarion and the Death Guard next, they would have a small contingent fight in the Battle of Dwell, which was another thing we'll probably tackle later. It's like a sort of smaller campaign. And also on the world of Moloch, where on Moloch, it will be the first time that Mortarion would sort of his ideas about the Legion / and also this Horus Heresy would start to change him. So Mortarion in secret was starting to learn about sorcery, and you're probably going, why would he do that? The Mister hates all sorcery. His excuse was that he's Legion and he had previously had interactions with demons, quote unquote demons. So he thought, if I can understand demons, just me, not my Legion, I'll take the fall for it. I'll endure the disgusting things. But if I learn about demons, I can better protect myself and the Legion from them. Not realizing that him relying on this weapon and tool would eventually, lead him down the road to hell.
Yeah, I'm just imagining Big E being like, "We do not negotiate with the Immaterium."
Something Ezekiel Abaddon said, I think Prospero was one of the coolest looking planets in 30k. It's really, they've in the Thousand Suns book, the way it's described as like a proper utopia, and then it makes it extra. Also, it makes it more tragic that when it's blown up and like all the innocent people are like space wolfed, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, it makes it more tragic that the quote unquote most intelligent Primarch turned his brain off for quite some time.
Pain. It was so pain. Someone said looks at Comrade. Poor leave Conrad Kurz alone. He's had enough.
He
He's
deserves it.
permanently the naughty corner.
He made statues out of people. I think he deserves all of the shit coming towards him.
He did make a meat statue, to be fair.
Yeah, when you make a meat statue, you've lost all right to be upset
I
at
don't know,
criticism.
When you've lost a meat, that was the line. The meat
I
statue.
mean, he's the greenest of all the Primarchs, at least.
The greenest. Oh,
Yeah, recycling,
Oh.
compost.
Yeah,
Speaking of compost,
that's because litter is a crime, and he would flay you alive for that.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh,
He's
yeah, I forgot
very
about that.
stringent with that.
speaking of more crimes, though, Mortarion would commit his first crime by summoning the demon / possessed body of a previous Death Guard captain called Ignatius Grulgor, which had, I think it was the Life Eater virus trapped within him, basically a Nurgle demon thing. And the way he would summon this, actually, Mortarion very reluctantly killed his Death Shroud elite Terminator guard as a sacrifice to bind this demon to his control. He sees it as like a kind of sacrifice for the Legion to understand this power and bind it to him, but he again killed 7 of his sons. And also the Death Shroud, by the way, his elite Terminator guard, they don't talk, so it was like even if one of them survived, he couldn't say anything.
Way though, of his
Is
Death
there?
Shroud and became a loyalist. What was his name? Let me just check my phone.
Oh, it's like another Kaifer.
His name was Korak.
Caiaphas Cain, yeah.
Khork. He became
Caiaphas Cain, the Death Guard, as we all know, famously got away. No, that's fake lore, but I don't.
Yeah, he escaped, and he was like, "I don't agree with this," and he just escaped, and he's like, "Oh, I'm a Death Shroud, and I'm now going to be one of the guys who are like, oh, we're not loyalists or traitors. We're in the middle.
We're too
Black
cool.
Shield.
We're
for that.
grey Jedi, essentially.
Yeah."
Someone says the algorithm definitely pushes carpet power washing to me on a daily basis. Some of the best videos out there. Thank you, my dude. I appreciate that. Listen, I promise this is the thing. Someone's gonna watch this. We're gonna watch this at the end of
I
the
just
stream.
don't get it.
We
I
believe
know.
you. We
I
just
watch
won't
weird
join
things
you
too.
in this
It's
crusade.
ASMR. I swear you
Look,
enjoy it.
everyone's got their niche thing they're into.
True. We're into
all
Warhammer.
Warhammer fans.
Yeah. So we continue on with Moloch. Moloch is where Mortarion would essentially summon this demon, and it would essentially help them conquer the planet. Moloch is very well defended by the Imperium, lots of night houses on it, and Mortarion Death Guard would land. They'd basically be put behind this forest, and the Imperial defenders are like, nothing can get through the forest. You know, how the hell would they ever clear a path? So Mortarion sent the demon
Were
to
they
basically.
French?
I mean, they didn't resurrender yet, but Mortarion sent Ignatius Grulgor, the demon, in like a rhino, like ahead of the army, and it would basically his corruption would clear a path through the forest. Eventually, the Death Guard and Mortarion would see Horus in the planet's capital of Lupercalia. Horus would famously walk through the warp portal and then emerge seconds later as the proper War Master Horus, corrupted by chaos and as powerful as the Emperor. Mortarion and the Death Guard kneel because they kind of go, oh my god, that's the scariest thing I've ever seen. And also they think in their mind, the way I rationalized it was they go, now that's a guy who's got chaos and turned it into the perfect tool. So they kind of go, that's the ideal. But also it's a very weird moment where you kind of think, why did Mortarion kneel? He's not really a kneeler. That's kind of his whole thing, is he was against kneeling to the Emperor, but again, different writers. But that would be Moloch, and this was kind of semi early on in the Horus Heresy. And as we get a little bit further in the Horus Heresy, it gets worse. Surprising. Mortarion would begin to quote unquote experiment with warp stuff. So he made like weird grenades and things. Again, a lot of it was kept from the Legion, or if they saw parts of it, they kind of didn't really understand what was going on.
He'd hush them up, like, no, don't worry about it. Don't talk about it. Don't worry.
And it would, I mean, at some parts as well, like, to be fair, Mortarion himself, it says many times he would do the experiment, and then he would just smash up the laboratory because he was so annoyed and like disgusted by what he was seeing. But then eventually he would get, his curiosity would come back. It's like, oh, maybe I need to investigate. But this would eventually build up to a battle slash another confrontation with the White Scars. The White Scars have been running rings around everyone, but at this point they'd finally been sort of curtailed and pushed in a little bit, and they've been surrounded. Mortarion joins up with elements from the Emperor's Children. He looks at them, they're like, that's disgusting. Like, my God, that guy has got multicolored nostril hairs. Like, and it's just the weirdest combo.
Ugh.
His skin is all wax and his whole body's like formed to look like someone being flayed. It's like, it is weird. It gets funky in Warhammer. And essentially they agree to basically take on the Khan and the rest of the White Scars fleet because they have no escape. And so Mortarion and the Death Guard pummel towards them. It's this massive, like, sort of open naval battle. But the only problem is they're all like confident, the Emperor's Children, so they race on ahead. So it's kind of separating, it's kind of showing you how the traitors, even at this point, the legions can't really work together.
They continue to be terrible at cooperation. They're just like, I'm just doing it myself. I'm like, you idiots. Work together. And they're like, nah, it's not my thing.
It's
in it.
It's very much like it reminds me of that joke I heard. It's not, I don't know if I'll tell it correctly, but it reminds me of like the 4 cannibals they applied to work at a job, and the guy hiring manager says, okay, fine, you can work here as long as you don't eat anyone. And they're like, oh, of course, no problem. And then months go by, and eventually the manager says, have you guys seen the janitor? He's gone missing. Like, we can't find him. And then he brings in the 4 cannibals. They're like, no, we haven't seen anyone.
I don't know.
The hiring manager goes outside, and then the 4 cannibals they turn to one guy and they go, I can't believe you did that. Listen, we've been eating the CEOs, the HR department, and now you finally eat someone they're going to miss. Like, so
to condense it, it's like if Colin was an Ultramarine and I was an Imperial Fist and we were defending Sofa, I'm just like, Astartes together, strong, and that's the loyalist ethos. Just done.
But yeah, they were not strong because the elements of the Legion, they just couldn't really pull their finger out their arse and like put their petty egos aside. Fine off, that's a bit of a theme, and work together. Eventually, the White Scars would open up a portal behind them, basically into the webway. The traitors were not expecting it. It's like, oh crap! So they rush on ahead. But Mortarion kind of catches up to Jaggedside's flagship. He teleports on, and there's nothing there. He's like, it's pretty empty. I don't get what's going on. And as we said earlier, the Sagyan Mazar, the death, the marked for dead White Scars, all 100 of them just basically jump off the top roof, and they basically go for an RKO sort of thing.
They do
and
the Return of the King thing. They just go for Jaggedeye, and they just run in.
Yeah,
get him.
And they have no chance because it's Mortarion and his new Death Shroud. Funny enough, he kind of got rid of the old ones. Wonder where that went. Didn't sweep it under the carpet properly. But he would eventually confront the Sagyan Mazar. They died heroically. They basically, and the flagship of the White Scars would be sacrificed, but the White Scars would get away, I think.
Am I remembering a bit where I think Mortarion's looking down at maybe Shibu or one of the other White Scars, and he's like, you've all failed. And he starts laughing, and he's like,
yeah, they're all there. It was said Mortarion could all hear them, and the Death Guard, they could hear them laughing the entire time. The White Scars, they were like,
even when they were just about to die, they're like, they're that smelly thing. Lol.
They're like, it's got something on your nose, on your shirt, and it's like flicked his nose up. But they were
literally like, got your nose, even to the end.
They did a proper got your nose, and the White Scars would get away. The White Scars would get away, and the Death Guard were like pissed. They're like, "Oh God, that's embarrassing." They were already the only one Legion who's not fully corrupt at this point, so they kind of like they're already looking like outsiders to the rest of the group, shall we say? And then this would sort of be the mid Horus Heresy. Towards the end of the Horus Heresy, they've just been conquering planet after planet. They've been separate from all the other legions. Everyone's been on their own, kind of doing their own thing. You know what I mean? Everyone's gone to university or college, and they've kind of changed. Someone's got a new hairstyle, whatever. They've all come back different. And this would be where they would get the call, and essentially Horus is going, "It's time, dude." So everyone puts down, it's basically the boys are back in town. It's time to get the gang back together for the push on Terra. And the Legion itself would reform, and someone would appear who Mortarion hadn't seen in ages. He'd been trying to call him for like forever. This guy just wouldn't pick up his calls. He's kind of getting a bit annoyed. And this was good old Kalas Typhon. Typhon himself had basically been ignoring Mortarion for the entire Horus Heresy, and basically been doing his own thing with his own section of the Legion. And all these little other parts of the Legion would re-knit together. And I believe Typhon, excuse me, spoilers. Typhon would ask Mortarion to, hey, come aboard my ship, the Terminus Est, and we'll go into the warp / meet Horus as a sign of unity, you know.
Hey, just
Trust me,
come
bro.
aboard my ship. There's no worries. Don't mind the smell. What gurgling? I'm not gurgling. I'm not making any noise.
Oh yeah,
What's
and
the
like
noise?
Mortarion can
Oh.
hear like fly noises, and he's like, Typhon looks a little
Yeah.
bit weird. He looks a little bit ill.
He's looking a bit peaky.
Yeah.
Hmm.
And someone said, is it MAS 20 says Morty deserves redemption? Right? No, he doesn't. He's not. He can't redeem someone who doesn't think they've done anything wrong.
Burn the Mothman with a
mean-
giant thing that they fly into. You know, that blue thing.
I mean, compared
Yeah.
to some of the other traitors, he deserves it.
Oh, that should
Yeah.
be a meme, surely. The thing, you know, that is it the Pixar? Is it Bug's Life? Where it's just like, buddy, don't go into the light. He's like, I can't help it. It's so beautiful. And that should just be Mortarion and like some device.
Yeah, but Mortarion himself, something's a bit amiss with Typhon here, clearly, but he sort of stopped, and he's like, you guys, you've been ignoring me for like literally 7 years. And he's like, it's no problem, bro. It's all good. It's all good. So he kind of swallows it. He's kind of like that
You
friend
didn't
who
answer my pings, bruh.
he's kind of like that friend who constantly gets let down. So he's very much he's like used to it. I'm really dogging on this, but the Legion is whole again, and Mortarion joins Typhon on his ship, and they all they hold hands, and they basically enter the warp together and go to meet Horus. But it goes wrong immediately. Some big energy shock waves are going across the fleet, and then people like again, there's like, as Colin mentioned earlier, Typhon says, there's been a plot, I'll find out what happens. And so he goes, searches over the fleet, and he brings Mortarion all of the navigators. For people who are listening, navigators are the ones who help them get through the warp, and they basically sort of literally navigate the tides of the Immaterium and hell itself. And Typhon executes them immediately without trial or anything like that. And Mortarion even gets close. He literally grabs him by his gorget, lifts him up like a naughty child, and is like, what are you doing? And then essentially Typhon says, see, they were going to launch us into a sun. They're all traitors. Me and the Psychers of the Legion, we can guide the ships. It's fine. And obviously they're very much like, we don't really use the Psychers. That's like kind of the
Psychers
the
are
weird
a bit
kids.
icky.
Bit icky boy. And Mortarion's like, well, we have no choice now. And things start to go wrong. People start to get sick on the ships. And Mortarion finds, I think it's Zuriek, a legionary, gets sick. So the Death Guard, and then he even tries to kill Zuriek. He stabs him in the chest, because Zuriek is literally writhing with every disease known imaginable.
Is this the bit where the Dreadnought is all like, our brother is sick, we need to tend to him, and he's like chatting to him, and then all of a sudden he starts getting sick, and he's a Dreadnought. He's like, well, I'm in this thing, I'm not going to get sick. He's like, oh no, what's going on?
It's like, oh god. And Mortarion goes, fine, I'll put him out of his misery, I'll kill this guy. Stabs him through the chest, only for the guy to wake up, pull the knife out, and it's all rusted, and basically go like mewling at him, crying. And then Mortarion's basically walks away like, we'll find a solution. But in his mind he's going, oh shit. He's basically losing it, because in his mind he's like, the Death Guard don't get sick, this is impossible. Essentially the entire Death Guard Legion now, they're all getting sick, and they're all starting to, even Mortarians have boils, and he feels like the battle in his bloodstream, he even says. And he's at this point, his suspicion of Typhon and what's been going on so far is just reached breaking point. And so he goes to confront Typhon, only for Typhon to turn around and basically appear out of the dark in the navigator chambers, all bloated and disgusting, and basically go, what do you mean? This is what we were always meant to do. And Mortarion's like, what do you mean always meant to do? This is the path of the grandfather. And then Mortarion's like, oh crap, this is bad. Get us out of the warp now. and then him and his Death Shroud, they rush Typhon and his Grave Wardens, which are essentially like his guards. And Mortarin's surprised by like how much strength Typhon has. Like he's just they never actually fought each other, and they've been essentially best mates for a long time. But their friendship kind of dies in that moment, and Mortarin's like,
that's a friendship
Yeah.
ender right there.
yeah, when your friend like completely submits you to the forces of hell and you weren't even willing.
Hang on a
It's a
minute.
bit-
You gave me the pox. We're not friends anymore.
When your friend gives you smallpox, it's a bit controversial.
Yeah.
And so Mortarin was fighting Typhon, and Mortarin's like, I should have killed him by now, which is a bit tough. Eventually, he does impale him, only for him to just wake up again, like, basically call the ambulance, but not for me, essentially. And Typhon wakes up again. Mortarin's like, I don't know how to fight this. Everyone around me is like dying, and there's disease everywhere. So Mortarion unleashes a weapon he hasn't wanted to touch for a long time. He sends out the good old demon, Ignatius Grugor, the one that he used on Moloch to, carve out that planet for them. He basically goes, get him, boy. And Ignatius does exactly what he wants. He kills Kalas Typhon in front of him. Mortarion's like, oh, thank God. Only for Kalas Typhon to essentially rise again as Typhus, reborn as the Herald of Nurgle, and as basically a corrupted demon sort of thing. And Mortarion's like, this is the worst day ever. Literally, my sons are dying. The only thing I care about are my sons. That's the only thing I have is my Death Guard, and they're dying. And only for him to turn around, and then he sees a god. He sees Nurgle. And it gets really weird here, where essentially time, like the whole Death Guard Legion fleet is stuck in the embrace of Nurgle's like personal attention, and they're all like suffering and dying. Time itself starts to overlay and flux in the warp, where Mortarion starts to see the point of when he failed to kill Nikair, and the Emperor offering, him offering his allegiance to the Emperor, and it sort of overlaps with the present of when he's sort of made to kneel by Nurgle. And Mortarion starts to echo the words he had said then and now, which was that he wanted to endure, he was willing to do anything to save his sons. And so then, with his oath given in blood, he starts to transform, and he sprouts wings, and his body bulges and convulses, and it's passes everywhere. And to all the Death Guard legionaries, they are all healed from their sickness, and they feel pretty good, but they are all turned into the horrific plague marines that you know and love today. And it's a pretty, the transformation is described as very much like they are just like things just bulge out of them, like insects ripple over them, and it's disgusting and horrific and
Sticky.
a bit sticky. Yeah,
Ugh.
obviously we don't want to get into it, but obviously certain
Colin's expression was priceless.
we don't want to get into it, but let's just say liquids were
Because the thing is,
involved.
I've just been watching Colin there for a while, just going, "It's a sticky word." It's just this shit was perfect.
I
Someone
don't know why
said,
the sticky description is what drove it over the edge for you, but for some reason that was like the straw that broke the camel's back.
I think,
Sticky, gross.
And moist.
Oh god, I think Jackdaws
He said
put,
it again. Brilliant.
Jackdaws put when your bro gives you AIDS. Very much the same.
Just a prank, bro.
It's just a prank, bro.
Just a goof.
What do you mean? Why are you not laughing?
It's just the bubonic plague. I don't know what I don't know what the big deal is.
When
Come
you
on,
can't
it's
be
like-
bonic with your homies, are you
Yeah,
even
yeah.
homies? That's a real question. And the Legion at this point is now corrupted by Nurgle. A lot of them they don't really understand what Nurgle is, but they sort of learn to like their new form. They are stronger, more enduring than they ever have been before. And the ones that kind of resist, like Mortarion in his soul, they actually feel the pain, but the ones that very much submit to the corruption, they're like, oh, I'm so happy, this is amazing, I love it. The Legion would then go on to emerge with horror. They'd like emerge in front of Horus, like, oh, the Death Guard are here. Oh my god, what is that smell?
Oh, that bit where Mortarion goes on the vengeful spirit, and like Horus is keeping it together. Abaddon is barely keeping, and everyone else is just vomiting. They're like, "Ugh," he smells.
Everyone
like,
starts
everyone.
immediately like someone just
Like
absolutely
Malaga,
blew up the
Twisted
room.
is just like, oh, and he just everywhere on the floor.
No
Like,
one
so-
wanted to be have
so
to sit
bad.
next to them in the meeting. Like, no, that
The thing
was
is, it's like as soon as he enters the chamber, and it's a big, like 40k architecture, it's massive.
Oh, they're
as soon as
massive.
the doors is like, and then like Horus is there going, and Abaddon's there going, and everyone else is just vomiting furiously.
It's very much being stuck in an airplane with someone who was ruining the toilet. It was horrific to be in their presence. They are just literally the word disgusting resilient is the perfect way to encapsulate them.
What I like
And
to,
go ahead, sorry.
I just would like, so like obviously they didn't realize the stench until the doors open, and then it was like, oh my god. But like, imagine the guards outside the door who were just standing there like for like 15 minutes straight. What is that horrible smell? And then the death guard walks in.
Literal sewer.
I
Like,
just feel sorry for the labor serfs who have to like mop up all the like sons of Horus vomit. Like,
thank
they
you,
don't
Devin.
pay me enough. They don't pay me. I'm indentured. Oh, this is terrible.
Thank you, Devin Griffin, for the average Magic the Gathering convention. What book is that meeting in again? That's the very end of The Buried Dagger, which is the last Horus
Very
Heresy
good book.
book.
I like it because there's a lot of Knights Errant stuff in it, but there is definitely
Someone said that the airplane shit in the news recently. There was a flight turned around because someone had ruined the aisle, didn't they? That's enough detail for that one. But the Death Guard are here. They stink. They smell so bad, and they are ready to ruin the Emperor's day. And from their perspective, it's like they want to take the Emperor of the Golden Throne. Mortation wants all his secrets. He doesn't care anymore. He wants all the things denied to him. And the Death Guard also want to, usurp the Emperor and maybe even appease the good old grandfather Nurgle, because why not? And with the Siege of Terra, they would they would be given the honor that they was promised to them long ago, which was they'd be the first to land upon Terra. They'd fight in many of the battles here. They would obviously be party to some of the joint operations with Perturabo, and they would also famously there'll be the duel between Nathaniel Garrow and Mortarion. I don't want to go too much detail of that just because that's their personal stories, and we want to cover that probably in their own videos at some point. And there'll be a duel between those, old Death Guard, Nathaniel Garrow, and what they became, which is Mortarion and the Death Guard, the modern ones. The next part of the Siege of Terra for them would be that just them being on the planet, by the way, also spread a sort of sense of dread and would drain people to the point that the defenders were almost giving up. And this is when we had the famous Sally from the White Scars who would try and kick Mortarion and the Death Guard out of the spaceport. And a slight part to mention here, the Death Guard at this point are starting to fracture, where Andy's enjoying any mention of White Scars.
Yeah, I'm having fun.
And the Death Guard themselves are fracturing at this point because there's a clear line between those who believe that Typhus is now the leader of the Death Guard and those who believe it's Mortarion. Obviously, Mortarion's their Primarch, but Typhus is the Herald of Nurgle. And Typhus is the one who brought them into Nurgle's embrace, whereas Mortarion's like, actually, it was my decision in the end. Thank you very much. Excuse me. And there's some combativeness between them. Typhus is off somewhere, not helping. But the White Scars do sally out, and there's a massive battle between them and the spaceport, multiple layers of essentially there's a cool point where it describes the White Scars have to fight in twos to take down a single Death Guard because they're so bloated and huge. So basically two White Scars having to basically clog one Death Guard, and a legion of tanks as well with the White Scars. It's a very cool scene from the book. Eventually, Mortarion and Jagatai Khan do fight. Mortarion completely outmatches him for most of it. He's just kind of smashing him. But Jagatai Khan is playing on his insecurities and his sort of flaws in his personality. He even mentions at one point, I should have fought the true Legion Master, Kalas Typhon, and Mortarion just loses it. And he basically impales Jagatai, but then Jagatai just pulls himself down the blade and basically snaps off Mortarion's neck because he got sloppy, and Mortarion is banished back into the war.
That's a cool neck you got there. Be a shame if you were to lose it.
That's a nice neck you got there. Don't think I can see it because it's all blubbery and disgusting, but he very much. I think like literally white. It's like he slashes this dowel across and it explodes in black blood. It's disgusting, and the Death Guard themselves, they feel like Mortarion leave the TG. Like basically, he leaves the material universe. Like, oh crap, and it would actually sort of represent the point where the Death Guard like splinters into different bands and Chaos war bands. Eventually, Typhus would sort of go, "Hey, I'm still on Terra. Funny that Mortarion was all alone and got banished. That's crazy. I guess I'll have to lead. You know, what a wild ride.
Wild.
You know, crazy, bro. You know, this would eventually lead to the end of the Siege of Terra, where they would like all the legions, where Horus would fail and die, and they'd be pushed into the Eye of Terror. They'd be, funny enough, Mortarion obviously awakens as a demon Primarch now within the warp, and he's basically gone the loudest fuck you could ever scream, like he just yells because he's like, I can't get back in the material universe. I missed the Siege of Terror, but he sort of is a statement of irony that Mortarion would then go on to forge a planet for himself in the warp, a demon world where it's basically a copy of Barbarous, where he lives as like the overlord on top of a mountain. So he basically became Nicair, like the overlord, abusive / adoptive father in the end. And
it's like poetry; they rhyme.
yeah, he sort of, I mean, it's all to do with Mortarion wanting to be a hero in his own story, as much as he thinks he's one. And the Death Guard themselves are sort of shatter, not hugely amount, but a lot of them sort of split into war bands. This is now where it would continue to the modern 40k timeline. Again, we mentioned earlier, the instances of the Death Guard fighting Tau, sort of everywhere. Even just one Death Guard is kind of a problem because they spread like plague and disease everywhere they go. They are completely, fully corrupted by Nurgle. They all enjoy the grandfather's blessings. There's a few of them that have different nice schemes. So it's like the traditional Death Guard colors, like the sort of rusted cream white, and then the green shoulders. But then there's also ones like with green covering, like sort of sickly Death Guard green as the model color. And
you can see in the on the
oh yeah,
visual we got going the baby vomit green, a nice lovely shade.
baby
It's
vomit
supposed
green.
to be white, but over time it's gone a little bit moldy.
When you never clean your armor.
And so the Death Guard now essentially become their modern 40k iterations. I do believe, I think at this point though, we will sort of talk about their tabletop stuff and a little bit about some of their units and how it feels to play them. But that essentially is sort of there are like small smashings. There's a good book, The Lords of Silence, but I would love to do a video specifically about that because it explains how no corruption is just so invasive in it, how it rewires your mind. But that essentially is what the entire story of the Death Guard is currently to their modern 40k timeline. But I think now we're going to do a quick question. Question of the week. We're bringing it back, boys. Some of your previous comments. Okay, sorry.
Before we start, can I get one last comment in about the Death Guard and whatnot?
Yes, of course.
This is more general complaining about Mortarion. I don't mind Mortarion. I don't hate him. I feel resoundingly whatever towards him. I hate, and I brought this up before, I hate that necromancy in the setting was wasted on his fucking backstory. It is. His adopted dad's the necromancers, and we're done with necromancy. That's it. That's
and they're gone
Have
now.
fun, everyone.
Yeah.
It should be used for something like we said a lot of time like Eldar, that like because they have access to like the dead. It should be an Eldar thing, like heroes of an old age.
In two ways now, both Wraith units and the Ynnari. Well, of course, that wouldn't mean the Ynnari need good lore, and that's just not happening.
Yeah, I don't think Ynnari podcast episode is coming anytime soon.
I feel like there's also an angle you could go. Maybe the Eldar, both Drukhari and Eldar, could say, rather than be claimed by Slaanesh, I'll be a thrall. Like that could be a narrative thing where they say, well, it's better than being part of Slaanesh. I'll just become a zombie Eldar. Like, surely that's an avenue someone could explore. Is like, well, it's pick your poison. Neither's particularly good,
not
but it
great,
makes it interesting. Yeah.
Undeath is better than eternal torment.
There's maybe something there, to be fair. I'll just let people know as well. For the next question of the week, we will post that in the as like a sort of pinned comment underneath here, just for when obviously we'll answer them next time. But I think is it over to Andy? I think for the question of the
so
I
week.
believe
I'm
it
gonna
is.
I'm gonna share the first one. So the first one
Oh, here.
is from Joe Ken. I hope you can all see this. Hashtag retirement. This was from our Sebastian Yarrick video. Hashtag retirement. I'd retire Alfarius Omega, and so we could get a moratorium on the I am Alfarius memes. Also, we maybe find out which one Dom killed. So I think that's
Oh,
Dawn killed.
Dawn.
Yeah, Dawn.
Oh.
Sorry, I was thinking
killed-
of Gears
he-
of War in my head.
Uh,
He killed Dom. No.
No, not Dom. No, yeah.
he
Just
killed,
so we could like clear up what's going on
he-
with them.
He killed Alfarius. We're done with it. He killed Alfarius. I don't care. You make it. Shut
Listen,
up.
okay, like the problem isn't Alfarius. We're the problem. the fans. We're the problem with we ruined the I am Alfarius, but it's actually kind of cool in the books. We ruined it essentially.
Yeah, but GW leans into it where they go, maybe it wasn't him. We
If
mysteries
it's
are hard,
espionage,
so
I
we
get
just go, maybe who knows? We don't have an answer for you at every fucking
it.
opportunity.
You get a baby rage about it.
I am baby raging again.
It is, to be fair, it should have been like used only a couple of times. They do overdo it a little bit. I'll give them that.
Question number 2 is from at Halo Master 21 hashtag retirement. The entire Lamentus chapter. I think they deserve some
man.
rest.
Uh,
But let's be honest, wherever they retire to will probably be attacked by Tyranids within a week.
Bro, I don't think
shame.
that's. I mean, I can't point out anything wrong with this statement. Like, I don't know anything wrong. I think retirement would be nice for them, but it would go wrong, bad. It would die.
Devin Griffin, by the way, they should bring over Mr. Nagash to 40k. Big true. Bring the Bone Man in. One universe is not enough for him.
Bone Daddy cannot hold his ego.
2 universes wasn't enough.
He cannot hold in that ego any longer.
Just saying, he's doing a much better job at being a skeleton god than the Emperor is. Just saying.
True.
So number 3 is from Rarest Pepe 3815 hashtag retirement. I would retire the Inquisition and the Adeptus Ministorum because I want to make the TTS timeline canon. There we go.
I mean,
That would be funny.
in our hearts, but also the Adeptus Ministorum would. Funny enough, wouldn't that collapse the Imperium quicker than anything else? Pretty much.
Yeah.
Well, you say that. Pirate King Thasar said hashtag retirement. I would retire the Administratum. Either nothing would happen because of how bloated the organization is, or the Imperium would collapse in a week. Either would be funny. There you go.
It probably is a coin flip on that. It's like, who knows?
Someone said, I think my neighbor is Alfarius. If your neighbor is Alfarius, you wouldn't know it.
I want
think-
you to root out Alfarius and let us know.
Well, Mr. Ezekiel Abaddon, you should hit your neighbor in the face with a brick.
No, chill.
Legally, this is a joke, and I don't mean that.
Base, so I said that.
For legal reasons.
Trust me, Morty. Trust me. Someone has to do it in the voice like, trust me, Morty. You gotta kill all your navigators.
Morty, you gotta kill all your navigators,
Get your navigators, Morty.
I'm gonna kill you, Typhus.
I saw the new clip of the new voice actor. I don't know what's going on. It was Rick tied up Rick in a chair, but new voice actor is pretty good for Rick.
It's pretty convincing, isn't it? I don't know if they'll bring the old guy Justin Rodham back.
Probably not after
No.
what happened.
No.
Nah,
I think that one might be off the table.
it's too volatile.
Someone said that escalated. Thank you, Jack. That did escalate quickly. I think the last bit we'll finish on here, though, is just a bit of discussion on tabletop stuff. So I think over to you, Colin, just for a little bit in terms of their tabletop flavor and all that kind of good stuff.
I would be happy to, and I would also like to say that this is my do or don't for them. Please never ask again for the rest of my channel.
Oh, you have to do it one time.
At some point I'm gonna do it, but this is where I'm gonna point everyone to for the foreseeable future. So that being said, a little bit of just some basic stuff about them on the tabletop. The best thing to know about them: tough and tanky as all hell. especially against small arms fire, you are going to shoot them, and then they're going to laugh, and that's going to be the end of it. They have, I'll kind of do it as I do. They have the Poxwalkers, pretty, kind of low tier scrub unit, but they do have a 5-up feel no pain, and every time they kill a model, they get a dead Poxwalker back, so that's good. Typhus has a 2-up save. The average Plague Marine, don't tell me I closed that out. I did not. Good. The average Plague Marine is a 3-up save. Their vehicles have 3-up saves. Everything except like the cultists and the Poxwalkers has a 2 or 3-up save. So if you want tanky, you want the Death Guard. They can lower enemy toughness. They can do shenanigans like that. They have auras where if they get close, that's what lowers the toughness. Ooh, pardon me. Some of their command abilities are similar. Infecting enemy units, so they're easier to kill. There's some regeneration stuff they got going on, some cool stuff like that. As for reasons you don't like them, Eli did ask me to complain about them on the table.
I have a few to add to that as well.
By all means, but biggest downside, they're not going anywhere anytime fast. They are probably, I think they are the slowest army in the game.
It would make sense.
Yeah, 4 or 5 inches of movement is standard for them. Like, they have their vehicles, and I think the Demon Prince is a bit quicker. But other than that, the Death Guard armies are not going anywhere anytime fast.
If only they could run on all fours, that would be helpful.
Yeah, which is a problem, because that aura they have that lowers toughness, well, you got to be close to them to lower your toughness, and it is not hard to not be close to the Death Guard with 4 inches of movement. It's not a challenging thing to handle. It especially makes me want to die, because I play Eldar, who have 5 million different tricks to make their movement quicker. And then the Death Guard just have to waddle across the table. So that makes me physically ill to think about playing them, which I suppose is fitting, for the Death Guard. It makes me sick.
I do have to say, though, their unique sort of faction rule of it's the capping points and spreading contagion from CP places. It's so boring compared to a lot of the other ones, like Thousand Suns have obviously got the Kabbalistic ritual. I've got like a full data slate thing of like what I can do, whereas the Death Guard are basically just stinky, like like lower toughness stuff.
We got a donation from Dragon Master Outcast for $8.99 New Zealand dollars, saying the books will continue until morale improves.
It will not. I think did someone say like I have a question, which was there anything that the Emperor could have done differently in his interaction with Mortarion? Like, could he have done something to help? Oh, it basically
Don't be a little bitch.
The Emperor could have done a lot different, but I think it's a problem with a lot of the other later fan Primarchs, which is like the Emperor essentially was like, "Yo, it's nice, having this all reunion, but it's hurry up, we're on a schedule.
It's time to get moving.
Yes.
I've done this 15 times already. I do not care."
I think someone
Chaos is on its way. It's a coming.
I think CJ Kicks did also put out if Lorecrimes had a week, could they name basically everything that the Emperor could have done differently? Something like we could probably do it in a week.
Series.
Maybe squeeze it into a week.
Should have worked. The Emperor should have worked on his parenting skills, maybe even worked on his own dysfunctions and been a better father. True, but he wasn't really a father. He was essentially a general.
Yeah.
Or a general father.
Well, he did have good relations with a few of his sons to an extent, like Gilliman. He was just like, he's the more well-adjusted. He was just like, they're just fine. They're taking care of themselves.
I don't need to put any work into you. This is good.
Like, you're perfect. Go on. Do your thing.
You are baked to perfection. You're fine.
Dawn, what lovely armor. I like the flattery to copy me. That's fine. Go for it. Keep going. Jagtai.
Bok is Kiwi for
cool.
book.
Let's keep going.
That's cool, actually. So when is the next? So someone says. So when is the Halo tier list? Halo's. Well, I'm pretty sure Halo's in the works, boys. Don't worry.
We did see a tier list of like best maps, and I think Colin made a noise I've never heard him make before when I mentioned that.
Halo
Blood Gulch has to be S tier, or I.
Oh, of course. Valhalla too.
Of course, we get some bocked in the chat. Just bok.
Bok.
Everyone bok.
The lizardmen are here.
I hate Saurus.
couple.
I hate them.
I also say about death, isn't the by as of current time recording, the optimal Death Guard list is basically just Rhinos, Death Guard, Plague Marines. Like,
Yeah.
it's just Rhinos and Plague Marines. There's nothing else. There's nothing else to do. Your army's
So, yeah.
basically just
Mortarion is I mean, he's a demon Primarch, so obviously he's gonna hit goodly. But you're also paying out the ass for that if you want a demon Primarch. And I guess one last flaw is that they do not handle for as endurance based as they are. They do not handle like Melta and stuff very good. Small arms fire and like lasguns, bolters. Don't even worry about it. Just keep walking through that. But they do not have. When I was scrolling through their rules, not many feel no pains or invulnerable saves to go around. Mortarion has one.
yeah.
But I don't think even Typhus. I don't think he even has a.
They lost a lot of their enduring abilities from ninth, unfortunately.
Yeah. Which so like that depends on the army, of course. Which like Imperial Guard, especially infantry based guard, you're gonna have a grand old time walking through 5 million guardsmen and just ignoring them. When someone breaks out the Melta weapons, though, not a whole lot you can do about that. Like I think it was their Demon Prince. I think was the Death Guard Demon Prince. He gives units close to him a 6-up feel no pain save, which is helpful, but it's on a 6-up. Like
Yeah, it's like
not
the
great.
worst end of it. Anthony, Anthony
Oh my.
again. Since Eli isn't here, Colin should continue the stream tradition of
thank
eat a
you.
raw egg. But more seriously, love you guys. Keep up the great work.
Thank you very
Thank
much.
you so much, Anthony. That's very generous of you. Appreciate that a lot, brother.
I do hate to disappoint you. I don't think there's an egg in my house right now, though. I need
I know
more
I have
eggs.
12 in mine for a fact.
Don't volunteer yourself for things if you don't.
I'm not. I'm just
All
stating
right.
how many eggs I know I have in my cupboard.
Thank you very much.
But here's a question though with the tabletop. What's the thing with Death Guard deployments now? Is it sets of 5 they have to be deployed in?
Oh, squad numbers, you mean? Oh, or is it? Or you can buy them in as 5. I think you in squads of 5 and 10, but then you buy them in 7s.
Yeah, like
Oh,
yeah.
Painting Phase did a whole bit where they were like, oh, they're deployable in like this amount, but if you want enough Death Guard, I think it's like you have to buy them in 3s or 7s, and it's like you need to buy double the amount to have enough to deploy.
Well,
It's
it's the same reason hot dogs and hot dog buns don't have the same amount per package. It's to get you to buy more.
I didn't know that was a thing.
I didn't know that.
Yeah,
was a
hot
thing.
dog buns. I think like hot dogs are in like packages of 12. Buns are in packages of 10.
I did not. I mean, I'm
Or maybe it's the other way around. It's been a while
have
since
not
I've
had a
gone
hot
out of my
dog in
way
a
to buy
while.
hot dogs that weren't just from
Yeah.
a fast food joint.
I haven't had a hot
Reminded.
dog.
That
Sorry,
reminded
I'm
me
just
that-
thinking of hot dogs
I
now.
know, I
Sorry.
am
You've
too.
given both me and Hal an existential crisis. right now,
PTSD.
we're like,
Hot dogs.
That reminded me though of the final thing to complain about for the Death Guard on the tabletop. I hate their combat patrol box sucks.
Oh, damn.
It is it's typhus, which on the one hand, you get typhus, that's good. But that kills any rebuyability of it because you can't
you
have
get
more than
7
one typhus.
Yeah.
Yeah, you get one. It has I don't even remember what the unit is called. I think it's supposed to be like an apothecary. Biologus putrefier. I don't know what that means. 7 plague marines. There's that horrible number, and 30 poxwalkers.
Yeah.
I would like some marines with my Traitor Marine Legion, please. Games Workshop.
Yeah.
Although to be fair, as a last sort of saving grace, is that the Death Guard models do look good. They on the tabletop, you've got an army that's relatively like up to date and it looks good, and you can paint it like. I mean, even if you paint it wrong, like you don't know how to paint, like he's like, oh, I'm new, I don't know what I'm doing. You can still paint them relatively well. Like you can actually have a good go because them looking like messed up and inconsistent is
Them looking a bit rough around the edges is kind of the appeal. Like, yeah.
They're the easiest army to paint. Just shit, and then use that to paint the mini.
I like the idea that you just like you finger paint them in like green, and then you just like dunk them in custard and go like, there we go.
It would taste disgusting.
Go
and
to the
probably kill you.
bathroom, dunk it in the toilet, and there's your paint.
Thank you, Saint
Hashtag
named
not.
Slick.
Kicked
Saint
out.
named Slickback, who says, "No way, they got MF Doom on the pod."
Rest in peace.
So you can convert Typhus to a Lord of Contagion because you can't even buy that anymore. You can't buy the Lord of Contagion.
Huh.
GW.
I'm scrolling through their web store right now. I do not see a Lord of Contagion. I see Lord Felthius and his tainted court, which I don't like any of the words in that sentence.
It's the taint bit that gets you like, ugh. I don't want to buy that.
That and the name Felthius, not a fan.
Colin's done a brand sponsorship with Bad Dragons, right?
No, it was Adam and Eve. Different.
Oh, it's
section.
Adam and Eve. That's
We're not
one
currently
day.
sponsored by Adam and Eve, but here's hoping. Someone said it reminds them of the I guess it's the combat patrol for the Thousand Suns. I got that one
Yeah,
too
oops,
with the lots of the
Zan-
Sangor.
Zan-
Honestly, to be fair, you only need like you need 10 of them at most for a bat cap, and it's fine. I mean, to be fair, you still save lots of money, but again, like Zangor's seem like an afterthought, and someone really hates us in Thousand Suns players because they're like, you know what they really need? Like sorcerers, models? No, we need more
Bird.
goats. Goat bird.
Goat bird.
Give me goat bird.
I mean, it could be worse. It could be that Christmas box they released for the White Scars, which the main character in the box wasn't even on a bike.
Oh, Khosrow Khan is not. He's not on a
He's
bike,
a cool
dude.
character, but it's like you need him on. What's he? He's got Moondraken.
Is he meant to run on all fours as fast as a bike or something? I don't get it.
Although, have you
Oh,
seen
man.
that new Stormseer model? Oh,
That does look pretty sick.
I'm honestly, I'm feeling a little bit of marine fatigue in terms of like, man, like after how many Primaris lieutenants came out, after a while, you know what? Everything starts to look like a Primaris lieutenant. Shout out to my girl, Primaris lieutenant. No, I didn't mean that.
The Death Guard might be a little bit better than Nurgle and Age of Sigmar. It looks like their Dawnbringer box is 8 models.
Oh,
damn.
Although it is 2 of them are on like big boys on the Blade Throne, so maybe that balances it out.
We'll say no. We'll say now, but as well, this is kind of the end of the main podcast. If you guys have any questions you want to hit us up with or things for a moment, we'll be hanging on just for a little bit longer, just to have a little chat / hangout sesh, boys, if you want. I also talk about as well, like, because I'm myself playing tabletop as well as a lot of I think I've got into a lot more recently over like the last year or two, and I did like consider getting Death Guard for a while because again, like the models are. Oh, Colin's dropping his mic. I thought about getting Death Guard because they are pretty cool, like looking again. But like with most editions, like if you are buying an army, just do go with the one that you kind of you like the lore and you kind of like the models, because it's always going to fluctuate with how well your army is doing. So, I think I got another donation here. Someone want to read that one out there?
Oh, reader. Some rat thing. Thank you. Ah, yes, Skaven. The most benevolent masters, the Grey Seers, request to ask you to do a tier list rank of named Skaven characters. Glory to this horned rat. Good man.
That is a fantastic idea.
Thank you very much, and what an idea you've got.
That is actually, I mean, if everyone's, I think we could probably maybe add that in on the next tier list one we do. To be fair,
if it's not out there, I'll make it myself.
There's gonna be a literal, just one entire tier just for Thankful though. So we're letting you guys know now. Like already the bias is coming out. Yes, rat things. Yes. I would miss talking about Skaven, to be fair, because it's one of the few things, like, it's an absolute shining gem in fantasy, and I don't know what the 40k faction equivalent of that is. Like, there's orcs, but they're not. It's not the same.
It was the Hrud. They were just Space Skaven, and then they changed to be the weird aging, like, scaly things.
Yeah, but then even then they're just like it's barely mentioned as like a Xenos race. It's kind of a bit. There really should be like a faction where it's just like minor Xenos races as like a sort of conglomerate thing, and we get wacky models.
All of Thanquil's Bone Rippers ranked. all 10,000 of them.
Oh my god. Someone says, I'm late, but I'm here. You've got a lot to get through, brother. I won't
I am
lie.
here.
Eli will be here for that one. He will do Skaven. We will all have a go at Skaven voice probably at some point though. Enclave says, "Good to see Senator Armstrong here, bruh." Oh my god, people are. Who do we all look like? I wonder if people
Look,
like.
I'm
really
not gonna
ruthless.
I'm not gonna not take a comparison to Senator Armstrong. I'm just saying that when the hairline completely goes bald, you better start calling me Sundowner.
And then you got to be like, for now, you're going, don't fuck with this senator. And then,
Yeah.
like,
I'll go,
next you're going,
Fucking
kids are cool, Jack.
invincible.
And I'm such and such a child.
MS20 says feet pics when.
Stop.
Honestly, I want to say never, but let's be honest, we have a price.
Hold on, I'll do one for you now.
No, chill.
No,
chill.
seriously, let's go for it.
No.
You gotta
You gotta get money for
tease
that.
that out. That's gotta
No,
be a mercenary
I'm doing
kind
it.
of thing.
I'm doing it.
You don't need to put a. Oh, you can draw it. Okay, thank God.
There you go.
Oh, okay.
I made you scared there for a second.
I did.
Put the grippers away.
Insert creativity here, but I wish Tau would get more auxiliary support for weirdo aliens. Absolutely, it's such a missed opportunity for. I mean, like some models they do, like particularly Age of Sigmar. Whoever the Age of Sigmar team is, where are they in the 40k stuff? Because that team is pumping out models. That is just they are cooking, and I don't get why we don't have some of those like crazy things. Like I think a lot of 40k models are pretty safe.
I think I read and take it with a grain of salt because I don't know for certain, but I think I read a statement that like soft confirmed that when GW writers and modelers and whatnot want to be creative and do out there stuff, they're specifically put onto Age of Sigmar because like 40k has its identity and GW executives are
it's a
afraid
bit
to fuck
too.
with it.
They want to be more safe.
Yeah, whereas AOS, especially because it's not even 10 years old yet, they're like, yeah, go nuts, do whatever.
People just commenting on the feet pic thing he drew. So, move off for the feet.
Talk
pic
about Age of
thing.
Sigmar.
I just felt, oh no, no more feet. What is that? Is that a hand? Okay. Someone says they have 5 warp tokens for you. That's already too much. You're too generous, to be fair. I think, to be fair, we would like to do. We will definitely add. I think if we can add the Skaven tier list into our next one. And again, any other suggestions for that is definitely welcome. We appreciate that, guys. I think though, I think that's for most people's questions out the way though. I think that might be just the possible end of this. Anyone wants to add anything more? Anything on there?
Should we? I don't.
Tease next time's one.
Pick a different army than Death Guard.
Yeah, that's all. We will say by the end. A lot of this, the live one here will be trimmed down into a video after.
Yeah.
So don't worry about the jank. If you're watching this live, thinking this is a bit different, it'll be trimmed down a bit nicer.
They were, I think, 50% win rate last meta watch. So hey, they do have that going for them. They're not the Dark Eldar.
I do watch Auspex Tactics. It's good, obviously, literally the channel that saves this entire community. And I remember seeing like every video I look and the comments are always like, "Oh, they're ruining the game. They're ruining the game." And like you look at the last data slate balance, and everything's nearly like 50-50. So I'm like, that's as good as it's gonna get. So I think people like it's okay.
I assume anyone who says they're ruining the game has an army that got nerfed, whose win rate went down. I kind of just assume that.
Yeah, I mean, some of the armies I play, like they're not the highest win rate, but that's fine because even between just playing a game, it's so up in the air at all times. It's pretty close. It's okay, dudes. Don't worry about it.
Meta watch 40k top 3, Eldar, Orcs, and Leagues of Otan. So the War in Heaven round 2 and Deep Rock Galactic, baby.
Rock and Stone.
Thank you, Mass20. Appreciate that. Someone said also Imperial Fist beginning to expert. We could do, to be fair. Imperial Fist is a tough one just because they actually find for how like much there is about Imperial Fist. They actually don't stand out much in the lore. It can be done obviously, but I think it's more. it's a tough one because it kind of gets wrapped into basically being individual characters, such as like Sigismund and Alexis Pollux, things like that. It basically gets wrapped into certain storylines. The Imperial Fist just sit in Terra for all their books, so it's a bit tough, that one. Oh my god, the rock and stone is everywhere. What have you done, Colin? It's
I
literally-
mentioned
helps.
Deep Rock Galactic. What do you
Deep
think?
Rock
I
Galactic.
did the call to action, so it's my fault.
rock and stone, boys. Rock and
To the
stone.
bone.
rock and clever, very clever.
Oh my god. What have we
Noah.
drilled up here?
If you don't look, if you don't rock and stone, you ain't coming home. It's as simple as that.
Yeah, drink your
Someone said-
beer. Don't be a
Ooh.
leaf lover.
Someone said Hammer and Bolter tier list episode discussion.
Have
That's
you
a good
guys
idea.
seen Hammer and Bolter?
Parts of it. I would have to
Yeah.
give it a
I
full
I think
watch.
it's over, to be honest. They did the Lucius episode, and I don't think they're planning to do any more at this rate.
I've seen the.
I thought it was
I've seen
getting
the
better though.
Trazen bit. I've seen the bit where the Avatar of Cain gets Avatar of Cain.
Yeah,
Oh,
I mean,
sad.
there's about 15
Pain.
episodes. I've watched them all, but like, I think they're done because I think they're like, oh, we can't put any more like time and effort into it because obviously they did a bunch of them, and then everyone said, oh, the animation's a bit jank. So then they started releasing them very slowly, and I think they've now realized, oh, this takes a lot of work to make it look good, doesn't it?
Oh, animation's hard.
Let's finish it with Lucius's episode 15 done because I don't think they have any plans to do any more, to be honest.
I guess that's
Yeah,
kind of
well-
we should mention it, like the whole Warhammer. I'm about to say I even forgot what it's called then. Warhammer Plus thing is kind of I mean, yeah, there's like I don't even know what's going on with that anymore. I feel like
mean,
they're giving up on it.
I
as
really
well.
enjoyed Pariah Nexus, but it was only 3 episodes, and I was like, "This Iron Within was 1 episode. Angels of Death was great, but then that was the only standout thing, and that was the launch thing. And then they did Origins for 3 episodes, and Interrogator was 6, and I was like, "There's just not enough. There's just not enough stuff."
I think they obviously would like to have a lot of their things on their own platform, just because in terms of GW is a bit more of a traditional company where like they think about like stock prices and all that kind of stuff. They're not. You can already tell like they don't quite, even like so like people who do law stuff, they don't understand how to utilize us particularly. And
Also, as
yeah,
as
go
of at least 2015, at the like longest from the last time they said it, they have admitted we do not think video games are a worthwhile investment, which is the most cracked thing I have ever heard come out of a stock report.
oh my god, the Raptor Talon.
He's back.
Wow. Did I get
Holy
any?
shit.
This boot? Did I
Yeah, you
get?
did.
Thank you. Yes.
Very
Thank
much.
you so much, Raptor Talon. Oh my god.
Thank you.
That's very generous of you. Thank you so much. We was having a brief discussion about the. Well, I think particularly like the Warhammer Plus thing. I think they should just. I know they don't want to have like an ecosystem thing on YouTube because I don't know if they kind of understand. Like I feel like they don't understand it. Whereas
It's like Nintendo and
if they're
blocking Let's Players.
if they had all these videos like animations on YouTube, there's no doubt in my mind Warhammer would be like massive, like way more massive than we'd even think about. How many people have said like Astartes got them into Warhammer? I think people who are listening here, like a few of you might have never even heard of Warhammer until Astartes came around.
Dawn of War.
Yeah,
Stuff
'cause
like that too. Total Warhammer.
Pariah Nexus should have been another like version of that, and Astartes.
Bok.
Lots of box. Bok is our thing now. I should again. I feel like just they kind of do shoot themselves in the foot a lot of the time, and they don't realize how much. Like imagine as much as it is. I'll just finish like as much as it is self-aggrandizing. If all the Warhammer YouTube went away, like all of us lot, it would be quite like a. I don't know where I'd hear it. Like Warhammer.
Well, I
other
think
than seeing it maybe
at
as a
least from what
shop.
I've observed from people who've worked at Games Workshop and have now left, the big thing is they don't want to attach people or personalities to the brand. They're like, we don't want them to hijack our IP.
It's kind of like
So they're
Rooster Teeth,
very
isn't it? If anyone remembers that.
Yeah, it's like that's why they did the Only Hands thing where they removed all their painters' faces from Warhammer TV because they were like, we don't want to promote the people. we want to promote the brand. So you only see their hands in the video, and there's no faces when they're painting. And they've brought that back, but it's like they're very, very, very protective of. Oh, we don't want Colin or Andy or Hal being associated with Warhammer because Warhammer's our thing. We want Space Marines to be the face of Warhammer. We don't want
This
some
dude.
some dudes on YouTube or whatever being the face of Warhammer, and that's kind of I think that's the bulk of it.
That's why it reminds me of Rooster Teeth. If everyone here had watched Rooster Teeth back in the day, it was all personality driven.
That they didn't understand that people weren't there for the Let's Play. They were there for the Let's Players.
Yeah, so I kind of see their reasoning there. But again, it's also just there's a big divide between, I think, because it's been around so long, Games Workshop, they're much more like a traditional brick and mortar company than a like other.
And I think there's
more
also
recent,
something to be said
you know.
about probably the people who are running it are quite old fashioned in that regard. And they're like, oh, these kids with their newfangled tech. I don't get it. No.
Also, I mentioned Critical Role. I've watched Critical Role's good too. To be fair, yes, that's almost like Astartes was the way to get your mates into Warhammer. I've made my friends watch Astartes because again, it's just such a missed opportunity. Like, Pariah Nexus should be free on YouTube, and imagine how many people will go like, "What the hell is this Warhammer thing? It looks so good."
That's why I'm wondering what the hell's going on with the TV series of it. I know they're obviously like, we don't want to show off what we got before it's ready, but it's like
It's been radio silence.
it's been very quiet.
I think again, like a lot of it is always held close to our chest, but I think we also, to fit in a way, we'll say we all operate within an ecosystem of Warhammer stuff. We're just lucky that
An
Warhammer
echo chamber, yes.
Yeah, we're just lucky that Warhammer is such a good setting that we get to make all these kind of lore videos about it. There's just so much to it, and at least the writing and the models are all, you know what I mean? Like, we can, as much as we all have our complaints about it. The Raptor talent again, boy,
He's
what's
done it
going on?
again.
Well, it seems I'm now required to do this.
Welcome back.
So, Bok,
Thank you
listen, Raptor
for your
talent, thank you so
generosity, Chief.
much, bro. You're putting our children through, my unborn children through college, university. Appreciate that so much. Wow. Well, I don't even know what I was saying. I was like, but yeah, I just want to end on like, we're very like we had the. How much like I used to be a Star Wars fan, and you come from Star Wars, and you particularly look at the state of Star Wars now, where most stuff is reference, like that's the entire thing. It's just reference. Like, remember that thing? Remember Anakin, guys? You remember Anakin? You remember that? That's basically what Star Wars has come down to. And
Do you remember Darth Vader? He's dead, but do you remember Darth Vader? Let's bring
Yeah.
out Darth Vader again.
Here's
It's like
the
an
worst.
amusement park almost.
it's unending. I mean, I think of the did you see the South Park thing recently? South Park Kathleen Kennedy thing was funny. I won't go too much into it just because it is it's obviously not anything much
It's
to do with
spicy.
it. It's spicy, but obviously South Park have always been like funny and like / on the pulse with things, and I enjoy that stuff. But yeah, we're lucky. We do think about like Warhammer is luckily most of it's well written. The books are good stuff coming out. The model's always good coming out. I mean, it's not always on the timeline we want it to
Yeah.
be, but
I mean,
you know, it's all
fundamentally,
good.
the models and the books are their bread and butter, and it's mainly the models. So that's what they're going to focus on. But it's good that we get to pick apart the lore and go, oh, this is interesting. Look at
This
this.
is neat.
Look at that thing.
Yeah. Well, the
That's
law.
cool.
I mean, that's not lie. The law is good. The law, like, so far as like as much of it there is, the law is good. As much as there are obviously little bits that are a bit like, but overall, the collective is slaps.
Wouldn't have
violent.
interested this many people if it wasn't at least halfway decent.
And
Yeah.
I know I've said this several times before, but I think Warhammer is going through a renaissance right now, where it's like there's so many channels, there's so many new books, there's so many new authors being brought into the fold for Black Library. They're doing new models, they're doing new games like the Horus Heresy stuff. Like, it's going through like a kind of big step right now, and so there's never been a better time to get into it.
Someone says used to be a Star Wars fan, bruh. Listen, I feel you. It was it's just been a tough few years. I get that's the one thing, like Warhammer. There's a difference between like when you actually see Star Wars and then like Horus Rising, the first Warhammer book. It's just like, oh damn, this is like someone's big braining this right now, and got good lore. Also, again, models. most models look good. How much I want to complain, I'm going to play about League of Votan at some point because I'm so annoyed at how generic the League of Votan look. But oh my god, this is the Raptor talent. This guy is putting us through. I mean, it's not a donation, but I just chill a little bit. It's thank you so much earlier. You also said like there's only one good sci-fi series and it's Babylon 5.
You
You know
misspelled
what that reminds me
Halo.
of, though? That reminds me of what I can't remember what the series called, but it's got Simon Pegg and Bill Bailey in it, and they're working in a comic shop. And he's like, "Oh, we need to bring you to so and so." I can't leave the work. He's like, "You need to get fired." Oh, so and so. Babylon 5 is a big pile of shit. Get out! And they go, "Hey!" And that's how they get him fired.
Battlestar Galactica is just Babylon 5, but sad.
It is quite sad.
Fun fact for everyone who wants to be more depressed about Star Wars: the KOTOR remake is pretty much dead in the water now.
No.
Yeah, it is giant. It is in a show. Giant Bomb's Jeff Grubb as the quote is, "I just want to clear it up. This game is not being worked on right now. Just full stop. The game is not being worked on in any way at any studio."
Didn't it have a trailer?
It did. It was officially announced.
Because this is the thing,
it's dead in the water.
Didn't they just re-release it on the Switch as well? Like the original? Yeah, that might be why. They're like, "Oh, we don't need you. We're just going to re-release it."
What's going on, bruh? Okay, we're lucky.
I love Star Wars.
I guess we could finish on who do we actually think the Warhammer TV series, if they're going to debut it, what do you think the flagship ones are going to be?
I would hope for Caiaphas Cain, but it's probably going to be either
Eisenhorn.
Yeah, Eisenhorn or some Ultramarine.
I think that they should do Caiaphas Cain just for Henry Cavill, just so they can actually get so many series out of it. I think Eisenhorn should be someone else because it's only like 3 books, and then
I feel like the thing is though they're going to have to launch with something, because that's kind of the draw. It's like if we don't have a Space Marine, it could be confused with another IP. But if it's like, look at the big chunky boy, it's like, oh, I've not seen that on the television before.
I'm sure even
Eisenhorn has got Space Marines in the first book, but they're like,
but they're going to have to be very heavily in the story if that's the case.
Yeah, I would say like I'm sure even if like they do like Caiaphas Cain or Eisenhorn.
Whoa,
Anthony again.
Oh, it's just for me. Hal, I'm literally painting my 3rd land fortress right now, and you've hurt my soul talking smack about my genetic space truckers.
Rocket Stone.
First of all, Anthony, thank you so much. I'm not sure that comment was worth 100 for that, to talking smack, but that's amazing. Thank you. I'm gonna have a full rant about this probably one day, but my beef is not necessarily that they have squads, Leagues of Votan. My beef is that it is their artistic style and their lore is perhaps the safest drop in the hat I have ever seen in terms of they could have made them crazy. I'm talking, and it didn't have to be like a carbon moon copy / thing of, basically a moon version, moon suit, whatever version of dwarves. It could have been something way crazier and more exciting. And my only gripe with the League of Votan is like it wasn't more than what it is.
I like
Rock and Stone.
How we come at that problem for the from complete opposite angles.
You want more dwarf.
I want them to be more dwarfy. You want them to be less dwarfy.
But
I don't mind them being more dwarfy, but the way they've done it is they've split it between dwarfs and another Viking-ish Space Wolves knockoff.
Yeah.
No, it's like they've hedged their bets. Whereas, like, if they were just like dwarfy, just like, look at that dwarfy dwarf, and he's a dwarfy dwarf, as AI stuff, then everyone will be like, yeah, chunky dwarfs. But instead, it's AI simp dwarfs. I don't know.
Yeah, my only gripe is that it's just not. Well, I wouldn't want them to be as much like you say, like you don't want Skaven in Warhammer 40k, like they are their own. I don't need another Skaven. I don't need another dwarf. Warhammer Fantasy gets dwarves correct.
I
feel like they on the opposite end of the spectrum.
No, but like I don't. That's like Age of Sigmar already does it. Perfect. It doesn't need to have a round 2
because they've done the whole thing of like, oh, they've got AI. Whereas I'd be like, imagine if they were like, we're competent at harnessing chaos. Like we can just like contain and enslave chaos and an immaterial power. Like that'd be an interesting thing. Like, oh, they're Icarusing. They're getting a bit too close. Like, oh, we can harness this, but there's a reason we don't harness this. Whereas AI is just a bit more like, in it.
They would never do that though, because then that would be tacitly admitting that the entire Horus Heresy series was everyone being an idiot.
Yeah, but
That is-
that's where the
that's
conflict
the-
comes from. Like,
That'd be
oh, how dare
some
you do
random
that?
schmuck
How
faction.
you don't know what you're doing. You can't safely contain that. Bludgeon to death. That's kind of whereas
CJ,
AI is just
CJ Kick's book, the leagues are just a sci-fi fracking company in my eyes. In my head, maybe I haven't given them enough thought, but that's my vibe. Anthony, he also puts, I run my Votan as all Ironkin, love them. Listen, mate, I think if you enjoy it though, I don't want to take away from that at all. It's again like that's the whole point. I play some factions that you play, and they're not like the most competitive or like it's the craziest, but I just like that lore, and again, I have fun playing them. And if you're having fun playing it, that's literally all that matters. Absolutely rock and stone all the way.
You don't need to parrot the, no one has to parrot the YouTuber's opinion.
yeah.
No, we all have like as much as sometimes our opinions are based, and other times they are absolutely trash. We're not
My
going to kid
opinions
ourselves.
are always right, but you don't have to have them.
Always.
Always.
Okay, sure.
Our opinions are
Yeah,
always based, but
always.
sometimes they go in the basement trash.
We should do a tier list video of like just Colin opinions in this sense on like Warhammer stuff, and then just put like so this opinion is trash, right? But this opinion is rock and stone. And this
I think I should be controlling the stream for that tier list, and yes.
we have to mention that last time I could see it on your face how much you wanted to rip like the mouse control from Andy's and control the tier list.
There were a couple times I was looking at that, I was like, "Ah, you fucking
How much it goes to our heads just being in charge of the tier list stream. We should say the next one we obviously, I guess, well, Skaven could be one idea for the next tier stream list, and we're also planning to have these kind of our post podcast / post tier list streams, which we'll be doing alternating going forward. We'll have like this sort of hangout session bits after for people, so we get to basically you can ask us anything you want. Dwarf tier list. I mean, it's just Gotrek and then there's nothing else. I say that's really tough because
hang
by the
on
way,
now.
no,
Snorri, Gotrek,
Barden. Barden's a real one.
Barden. Free.
Bard. I mean,
That's a quick tier list.
Thorgrim. I mean, the White
Ungrim
Dwarf.
Iron Fist.
The problem is,
Grindel.
I think it works as a tier list because they're all S tier. There isn't a dwarf
you
where
say
there's
there's
no
bad
mid.
There's no bad dwarves. They're all good.
Colin, name me a mid dwarf. Who's a mid dwarf? I don't think it's possible.
There was a dwarf in Gotrek and Felix who was just a real asshole. I'll go
But
with
he's
that
not.
guy.
It's
Wait,
just
other
they're
than
all good though. All like
Other
named.
than him, all right, you know what? You kind of got me on that one.
him.
They're all Bretonian knights. Bretonian knights. I don't think we don't do a tier list of Bretonian knights.
Kill.
Colin will just put them
I
all in
might
F tier.
melt.
He couldn't be in charge of that one. To be fair, it would
Oh,
actually go
absolutely
horrible.
not. I would be palpatining this. I am the Senate. I am the tier list, and they're all in F.
I am the Senate.
Do
Pretty good.
Do it.
We say what we're doing next.
Yes, we can actually, because it
Which is,
leads perfectly on.
Good
We're gonna-
question.
We'll edit this out, by the way, for people who are watching. So only the people who are watching live can know this. But go ahead, Colin.
Are we doing what we were?
I think we could go for the one you want to do next, and then we'll slot it in.
Wonderful. Well, next time, everyone, we are seeking a good death. We're gonna do Gotrek and Felix.
Yes,
Part one.
Part
there's
one
a
because
lot
there's
of
so
Gotrek
one
much.
of
Felix.
many, because we don't know how many we're going to have to do to cover everything. So we're going to do it we're going to break it down into chunks because we don't know how long it's going to be. So we're like maybe one of 18. We don't know. Could be a while.
Death.
What does Noah
So no-
Smith put? Noah Smith put.
I-
No, Smith put. Colin probably mains Eng in Rock and Stone.
I do not main engineer. I main scout. If there's a cave
Main-
leech in the cave, I assure you, I will find it
we
by having it grab me.
will say though, yeah, Godric and Felix is coming up. I'm very excited this one. But I think Andy, you know, tertiary probably a little bit about this. But for people who are not 100% sure as well, this is from Warhammer Fantasy, the old world, the best world, and this is some like it's not the earliest Warhammer lore, is it? I think, well, some of the books are pretty old, but it's generally some like the best stuff that came out of the old world. With 3 for Thankul, my boy, my beloved. I think though, with that being said, we're probably gonna wrap the stream up now, boys. Someone said Bone Ripper tier list when we're not doing.
I
a
also
Bone...
like how we have Genesis Bok and Stone. That's now a thing. I'm
Felix-
gonna make it into a
the
t-shirt.
lizard
design.
Felix
sequel.
love interest tier list 2 hours long. Oh god. No, this is not possible. He put himself on that list too. To be fair, Gotrek would be number 1 though, because he's his greatest love.
It's like romance.
The bromance is, bros before hoes. That being said though, thank you guys so much for watching and listening on. Obviously this will be trimmed up probably in the next coming days, stuff like that. So for people who watched it live, and particularly Anthony and was it Raven, I think, as well. Thank you so much for the donations. Damn, that's a lot. Thank you so much. I don't know if we deserve
Raptor.
that love. That's just amazing, and we really appreciate that. That is wow. Thank you so much. And I think that anything else you guys want to add? Is that really? I think it might be it.
I mean, one thing I'll mention is I've done a video on Morty and I've done a video on the Death Guard as a send off to this episode. They're very popular. A lot of people really enjoy the Death Guard. They're not my cup of tea personally, but they are pretty cool. And if you enjoy playing them on tabletop, my condolences with the recent nerfs, but otherwise have fun.
She got a recent buff, to be fair.
I would like to announce I feel resoundingly indifferent to the Death Guard.
I don't mind it. I like Mortarian story.
I don't dislike them, but just
Keep.
I am. Oh,
Sounds like
sorry,
keep
you
on
first.
bock. Sounds like keep on bocking.
Keep on
Bocking.
bocking.
Bock. Boys. Bock.
I'm very excited to talk about Snorri next week.
Snorri Nosebiter, our
Not
beloved.
next week.
Oh yeah, no, it'll be 2 weeks from now. But
2 weeks. 2 weeks.
2 weeks.
2 weeks. That being said, thank you guys so much for listening, and that will be the end of the stream. Thank you guys. Peace. We'll catch you all on the next one for tier lists.
Yeah.
Have a good weekend, boys.